Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. Please give me a moment just to check the setup because I'm still getting used to this streaming software and it just takes a while for YouTube to load. I need to do a sound check as well. Okay, fantastic. It looks like I should be visible and audible on YouTube, which is a bonus. Okay, so hello and welcome everybody. I would like to do another broadcast before we launch into court cases, and today is all about what I need you to do. So I told you in great detail all the different things that I'm doing to prepare for court cases and so on. And today's episode is about what you can do to help me. Because the truth is that last time I went to court, I was nearly assassinated by MI6. I received not just threats, not just a death threat preceding this assassination attempt, but I was also mocked all throughout. So MI5 in London put on a street theater spectacle, playing out, weird things. Before the final hearing, they even played out that I'm the victim of brain research by, it was a really weird scene because one of the MI5 or MI6 agents crossed my path, cycled past me next to St. James's Square. I think it was just before midnight, and the entire streets were deserted. I was out on a walk trying to clear my head before the final hearing, which at the time I didn't know was going to be the final hearing. And then this guy cycled towards me on a bicycle in a, it was like a military outfit, like a big military, camo onesie with the German flag, and then a helmet with green LEDs, and the LEDs were running around kind of like, all around the brain. And it was bizarre, right? But at the time I didn't puzzle it together because I didn't know I was chipped. I didn't know much about remote neural monitoring. But looking back, what they were trying to tell me is probably German military mind control or brain monitoring or brain research. Who gives a shit? Like, really, as if, right, you're doing this in London next to St. James's Square and you're trying to pretend this is German. Well, it looks pretty British to me. But anyway, that's the kind of shit that they put on. And what this is, it's a sign of, number one, the sheer arrogance, carelessness and disregard for the rule of law that these people have, but also their childishness. At that time, it really shows it's a group of men who are basically playing around with their dicks. Okay, there's no better way of putting it, because this is not military, this is not research. It is just a bunch of bored, feckless old farts mucking around. And that is the level where MI6 and MI5 are at the moment, And the truth is that our militaries and our secret services didn't really have a job ever since we're born, right? I mean, already by the time the 20th century, all the militaries and all the secret services were already morphed into the one agency, okay? Behind the scenes, there has always been this global, world government already. Right? And it's just called differently. And I was trying throughout the last couple of episodes, going back the last 2 years, I was trying to show you how you have the same Masonic monuments and signaling all around the world. So the Masons are the biggest civilian military force on planet Earth, and they are global. Okay. So think about it. What we are now going into court against is the system that has been operating in secrecy and has, undergone the inevitable slide into abject shitness that every system undergoes when it is completely without accountability, without any sort of monitoring and any sort of external, say or even view into what they're doing, And it is a very masculine field. I mean, come on, it's all military and perving on people, and stalking people. That's a very male trait. I'm not saying that female stalkers don't exist, but fuck me, they are a lot rarer than male stalkers, which are abundant, right? So we are dealing with a system that has very masculine traits. And basically the best way to think about our intelligence agencies, it's like, imagine heaps and heaps of the saddest fucks in society basically having one big happy shed where they can just tinker away and work on the stuff that they like to work on, right? What's that going to be? Like probably some form of really weird tech-based perving, right? Like a bit of, like, you know what I mean, right? Imagine the dodgiest geezer down in London, Soho. What would he spend his time, doing? Probably perving on some young woman next door, right? And buying higher and higher long lensing technology to watch her in the shower, right? This sort of shit. And that is exactly what we're dealing with, okay? And I'm sorry. I mean, for all the male viewers, I'm not dissing men. I know that men are particularly sensitive, inexplicably, about, being dissed, but don't worry. But it's just a fact of life, okay? There are no female gangs anywhere on the planet worth mentioning. I know that the north of England and Glasgow had some female gangs for some time, but really, and you don't have female militaries around the world. You don't really have that many female serial killers walking around raping men and then killing them in the most brutal fashion, right? But you have these sort of men all around the planet. So there is a fundamental difference between men and women. And I'm not saying that women are great, absolutely not, because when they go nuts, they are deadly, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this particular system that we are fighting right now is very male. So it has all the male traits, okay? So if you are still inexplicably under this illusion that we're dealing with some highly professional militaries in our society and, high tech and really professional intelligence agencies, I think you're probably just, lived on the dark side of the moon for the last couple of decades, okay? We all have to wrap our head around the fact that when we heard about these snazzy high-tech projects that the intelligence agencies were doing and the research and development that places like DARPA were doing, well, what they're doing is they are farming a couple of very deluded, brainwashed and cocooned, brilliant people. They are farming those people's output, but the output is going to be used by those dodgy old geezers down in Soho, right? Basically being bored and jacking off while long lensing their, young neighbor. That's the system we're dealing with. So don't run around in your head thinking, oh, GCHQ is this place where, everybody's just this high-tech, snazzy, techie little kid trying to save the world, because that's not what the place looks like, okay? I don't even have to go in to know that, right? Because I can just see what these people are doing. Similarly, when you're looking at MI6, MI5, do not be deluded for a nanosecond thinking that they are in any way, shape, or form like James Bond, okay? Imagine the saddest fucks in your life, multiply that in sadness by a factor of 1,000, and you might get a whiff of the abject degeneracy of these organizations, okay? So the model you have to have in your head is the following. Think about it. It's a system that does not reward, brilliance or high integrity or I don't know what, creativity, right? What it rewards, it's secrecy, keeping your mouth shut, even when you're witnessing horrific crimes, right? It is rewarding kind of the brotherhood, okay? The kind of sticking up for each other, even when the other person does something fucking stupid, okay? And it's this kind of like omerta, okay? The silence, that's why they've got the cartel signaling with the, finger on their lips, like everybody keep their mouth shut. No matter how shit the shit is that goes down, you all have to keep your gob shut, right? Now that sort of system attracts abject fucking losers who require everybody around them to keep silent about what a bunch of waste of space they are, right? And any manager that by some weird, misfortune gets promoted up into a place where he really shouldn't be because he's either thick as two planks or just plain useless, well, he's going to be protected by the secrecy, right? And if he also is a bit like dumb, but yet brutal and threatening and psychopathic, he will be able to hold on to that position by intimidation. So any sort of secretive system will end up with literally the dumbest pieces of shit our society has ever produced, basically doing whatever men would have to do in secret, because the world would be outraged if it were actually publicly known. Like, what could that possibly be? Well, let me guess. I think out of 3, I can guess what it is. It's probably fucking and killing, right? Very male sort of sports, right? Now, that's the system we're dealing with, okay? So when we're going up against these people, don't expect brilliance. Don't expect transparency or anything resembling the rule of law. We have to brace ourselves for utter stupidity that is trying to beat us into the ground by sheer brute force and by wearing us down, right? With corruption, criminality, pathological lying, ganging up on us, and in the meantime, hammering us with all the stealth weapons. And the stealth weapons are electromagnetic weapons where you can have a heart attack, a stroke, or any sort of like brain damage, right? Without it being traced back to the perpetrators. Or poisons, right? Contact poisons, anything they spray on you, or little poison darts they shoot into you as you're out shopping, you know, this sort of stuff. Or sabotage, documents disappear, evidence gets deleted, judges get intimidated, yada, 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 right? The shit catalog. So we have to brace ourselves for the shit catalog. Now, there's absolutely no way that I'll be able to finish writing this court case and make it alive to London into a courthouse and back out alive without your support, right? And if you don't help me, even if I make it there and back out alive, I'll be ground down into a fine powder just with them using the shit catalog and an endless army of dumb as fuck minions, right? So that's what we're dealing with, okay? Now, as I'm preparing myself for this court case, I am dealing with so much shit, it's unbelievable, okay? I am first of all dealing with intense torture. Part of the reason why I'm doing videos a lot less frequently is because I cannot cope physically, okay? I'm really at the end. I spend most of my time recovering from the brain damage. As soon as I lie down, they basically machine gun my head all out. So I'm sleeping in a bunker with 3 or 4 layers of metal over my head. 3 of those are baking trays, right? And I listen to the banging of the shots. I see the light flashes in my eyes as these pulsed energy projectiles rip through my optical nerve. And on it goes all fucking night long. By the time you have a 6-hour session of brain mutilation, you get up and you can't even walk, right? Now, this is what I'm dealing with every single day from Philippe Rebord, who's the chief of the military here in Switzerland. He has some fucking directed energy weapons trained on my bedroom and on my bed, and he just hammers me with these weapons flat out, right? In the service of MI6 and the entire criminal, you know, canopy above us. So this is what I'm dealing with. And it is extremely hard under these conditions to write my court case, because sometimes it's extremely hard to hold a thought. To speak coherently can be very hard, okay? On top of that, my head is being literally cooked. It's being kept in a synthetic, you know, type of meningitis of nonstop brain inflammation by just heating with dozens of chip implants under my skull, by pain torture, and by a million other things. I am physically at the end of my capacity, okay? And on top of that, it is physically impossible to get a lawyer, so I have to do everything myself, right? We get the witness testimonies into the same shape, prepare everything, write my court bundle, order the evidence, and deal all with all this. And then on top of that, I also get shots in the heart, shots into my organs. Beams are, you know, tracing my body up and down, hammering all my bones. And it's just a nonstop, you know, upheaval, maiming, being, you know, pain tortured and just generally degraded by these psychotic degenerates, okay? And I have to do all this by myself. Why? Because the men we have in our society who are actually in charge of the male things like defense and everything to do with weapons, right, are a bunch of losers without dicks. Okay, that's the truth. We are down to women having to fight military weaponry because through the processes of the 20th century, our men ended up without dicks and without balls, right? Yeah, that is the truth. And I'm not going to mince my words, and all the men who are fighting like I am, don't take this personally, because I'm not talking about you. But then again, if you're being attacked by weapons, right, and you're not a soldier, you probably are also thinking, why the fuck am I dealing with this after we pay so much taxpayers' money into our militaries and into our police forces, which, let's face it, are mostly male. Okay? So really, what we need is these guys who we paid to protect us. We literally need to get them out of office and into jail for the rest of their lives. Okay? But imagine if you're frustrated as a man, right? Maybe you went to university and studied something else, or you have a job, you know, that's something else, nothing to do with weapons, and you're being shot in the head by your own military in your own country. You too are entitled to think, what the fuck? And think, why are all the other men such a bunch of fucking losers? Okay? And you can join me in thinking, what happened to those wankers? Okay? So this is not against men. This is against a particular brand of men that has been placed into the police forces and into the militaries. And I'm sorry, they are not men. Okay? They are nothing like what a military is meant to be, or like a fucking police force is meant to be. And I say that after yet again, one of my witnesses was dragged off. This time, and I'll say this publicly, it was Derbyshire Police, right? I will not yet identify the particular police station because I don't need to, and I'll do so very soon. But yet again, these total feckless, dumb as shit wankers who are basically criminals have yet again dragged off one of my witnesses into so-called psychiatry or psychiatric assessment, where another dumb as fuck man with a pseudo degree and jacking off called psychiatry was basically talking bullshit and pumping one of my witnesses with, you know, neuroweaponry, bioweaponry, until my witness thankfully got the hell out. So yet again, it has happened. And I'm sorry, I have so no time for these feckless tossers. It's absolutely unbelievable. Okay. So this is the current situation. I am physically exhausted. I'm very, very badly hurt. My brain is very damaged, and I am just at the end of my physical capabilities. Okay. And I'm dealing with so many useless men. It would kill the average person just seeing these wankers in a row, right? So I really need your help. And if you want this to succeed, I'm telling you, just watching my YouTube videos will not be enough, okay? If that's all you're going to do the next couple of weeks, I can tell you that my court case is going to tank, okay? And it will tank because of the shit catalog of nonsense that this criminal organization that we call the Secret Services is going to throw at me, okay? So now, today, it's all about what you can do. I'll also give you some, breaking news and some other stuff, but really, you should watch this video thinking, what the fuck have I done last week? Not to just help Katherine Horton particularly, but to just help the Holocaust victims in our society. What the fuck have I done last week? And if the answer is nothing, what the hell am I going to do this week? Because I need to do something. And if I don't do something, and now I is you, if you don't do something this week and the week after and the week after that, we can kiss our society goodbye. Okay? So please help me. Now, there's several things depending on who you are, because only you know. Depending on who you are, there's a million things that you can do. Okay? Now, the most effective thing that you can do is you start pulsing your networks. Okay? Your networks are the most powerful thing that you have. It's not even your money. It is your networks. And it's about how many people can you activate. And I'm telling you, it's a race against time. Now you can use your known networks, or you start reaching out, pinging people you have never met before in your life. If you really want to reach out, that's when you really, kick the barn door open, because you're reaching out of your networks. So pinging your trusted networks with information, with saying to them, hey, by the way, did you know that there's a Holocaust going on? Did you know that there are Holocaust victims? And did you know that these Holocaust victims are now trying to free themselves in the High Court in London? I think you should keep an eye on this court case, because whatever's killing them is going to kill us in 2020, right? Now, you can say this to your friends and your relatives, and you should, right, for their own protection. But then you can also send it to random strangers, okay? Now, there's a difference in mathematically speaking between the two, and also physically speaking, okay? If you are pinging your trusted network of people who know you, it is very sticky, okay? Because it comes, basically this information will then arrive with somebody who really knows you with your personal recommendation. And that is very powerful. If it were marketing, that would be the best way to sell something to somebody, right? As if somebody says, oh, I really like that dentist, you can bet your friends are going to try him. Or if you say, oh, I really like that car, or I really like, I don't know what, that shampoo, right? It's very sticky. It's very powerful. So this is why you absolutely must use your personal private power that only you have to reach those particular individuals in your social circle. It is literally your responsibility to reach them and to warn them about all this going on around them in their community, okay? And then your next superpower is reaching out of your trusted network, reaching people you have never met in your life. Because that's when suddenly you kick the door in with information to people, right, who, okay, they will not take it in with the same recommendation weight as your trusted network. But if those people hear it often enough, it's just as good. That's why advertising is all about repetition. That's why all the TV shows are interrupted by the very same adverts, okay? Because once you've heard the same advert 2 or 3 times, it sticks and you start believing it subconsciously. That's just how humans work, okay? They work with group referencing. Now, if you want to use your superpower of reaching out to random people, right, which is your right to just contact people and send letters and emails and tweets and make phone calls, that is your right, okay? Now, if you really want to use that and turn that into a superpower, you don't just contact Joe Average, which is also powerful in itself, by the way. If you put flyers into your local supermarket or up on your local trees, that is super powerful, because you suddenly start, throwing information around and scattering it in society, and then suddenly they will activate their trusted networks. That's when things go really viral, okay? But if you want to turn that, which is the scatter method, into superpower, you gang up with people, other people you don't even know, and you start pinging, as in you're sending information to the same key decision makers, all of you at the same time. This could be particular politicians, or it could be judges, right? Or it could be police officers or police stations. The most important thing is that you do it as gang action. And if suddenly a system or person sees that random people from all sides start knocking on their door with information, that is also powerful, because suddenly people feel ganged up on. And remember, humans have this bias of always agreeing with the group or wanting to be part of a group, whatever that group is, right? If you start heaping information and input onto the same police station over and over and over, right, they will feel ganged up upon, and they will think, oh my God, the entire world knows about this, right? And this is the internal assumption, like, oh, everybody else gets hammered like I do, right? Oh, this must be the new thing. So suddenly they take that on board, okay? So what I need you to do now is to take everything that I try to teach you guys and inform you about, and you need to turn that into a weapon, and you need to use that, okay? So remember, you are most powerful in your trusted network. That's when information really gets received and taken in the easiest. But you can go viral the best if you are scattering to random people. Okay, that's when you really make stuff explode. And you are the most effective if you are hitting anonymously, right, randomly at decision makers and people in power when you gang up on them. Okay, so that's what you have to remember. Do you see? Every single thing that you do is powerful in itself, but fundamentally different. Okay, so use all those superpowers you have. I can't do that for you, right? I can't inform your neighborhood. I can't inform your family and friends. And I can't, pick up your phone and call the judiciary or write an email to them and say, guys, we're watching. These are important court cases and we need these things decided the right way. Okay. And the other thing you need to know is never, ever, ever underestimate the power of psychological terror. Okay. Now, bad psychological terror is what the intelligence agencies are trying to do. They are trying to emulate society and they are trying to descend down on individuals with bad stuff and hammer them, like threats, death threats. We're going to kill your loved ones if you don't do what we want you to do, right? That is a mafia. But when it's society hammering their government and their judiciary about good stuff, right, to protect the rule of law, integrity, vulnerable people, and to stop crime, that is desirable. In fact, it is a key ingredient of our society, right? Now, in the very, very olden days, before TV and radio, where there was not much going on in these one-horse towns, a court case was a big deal. It might have been, the most exciting thing to happen that entire month. So a lot of people went. Okay, so in the olden days, the different platforms, plenaries of society were a lot more visited. Now, everybody withdrew into their cocoons and we're all watching television or YouTube or our phones, but we're not really, collectively going to the big foray where real shit is going down. We're not visiting the parliament. Most certainly nobody's going and visiting random court cases. Nobody's really watching the Supreme Court live broadcasts, right? In the UK or in the US, you also have lower courts being broadcast. Nobody does that. Everybody prefers to watch made up stories for adults, right? Otherwise known as TV shows. Now that's really bad. That's kind of like you're being fed off with sugar candy while the real machinery of the state is operating without any supervision by the people for whom it was designed, right? Now that machinery is gonna roll back and get you while you're watching your favorite show on your phone, okay? So we need to go back in society and focus on the things that really matter. And by the way, the Crown Corporation, this big organized crime cartel that's global and that we're all fighting right now, that global crime cartel never lost its never lost, its view on the ball, right? It was always with its, the one seeing eye, kept its one eye on the ball in every single state, in every single nation. And those were the courts, decisions, bribing judges, lobbying, right? All the lobbying happening in government, paying off politicians, putting on entire pedo parties for politicians to control, generate control files, and so on. This is what the Crown Corporation spent all its time and money and effort doing while we were all watching TV shows. Okay. Now, we have a lot of catching up to do, right? Because as we were not watching, stuff was pushed through in government, certain laws and certain judicial decisions that are really actually crime. And they were pushed through because nobody was looking, okay? And because the news were not reporting about it. Now, okay, doesn't matter, some shit went down, but it's never really too late. What we need now is that we need the herd to wake the F up turn around and descend down on these fori. This is courts and government and all the many other, executive and legislative, well, scenes, your local council and council meetings and so on. And you need to bring yourself in and, let your weight and your power come to bear down on these systems, okay? That's what you need to do as an individual, and many of you have to do this. Now, the good news is there are thousands and thousands of people living in every one area, but there's only one local council with just a handful of councillors. So the amount of pressure you need to put on these people to decide right is surprisingly little. Now, when you have something like the high courts in London, I don't know how many judges they have, but the number is not very high, right? If you start writing to these people, especially physical letters are very good because the weight gets noticed, right? That will actually be registered, okay? So I think you should now prepare for this, and you should contact the High Court. That's where I'm going. And by the time I arrive, I need every judge to understand how fucking important this is. So there's no time to be fucking around. There's no time to be giving in to any of the, ludicrous threats and intimidation coming from MI5 and MI6 like last time. Last time, already 2 judges didn't give in. That was great. But this time around, the pressure is going to be even bigger because so much more is at stake. Now, you need to balance that pressure that this organized crime cartel is going to put on judges with your pressure. You have to put on more pressure than the mafia on these judges, okay? Now, I'm not saying you should threaten their lives, but you also don't need to. You can threaten their careers, right? So you have to put on that pressure. If you don't put on that pressure on the High Court, these people will let me just, crash and burn. Okay, so what I need you to do now is somehow, by some means that only you will be able to figure out, I need you to mobilize a little army around you to descend down on the High Court to make it absolutely clear to them that we need to have the fucking directed energy weapons shut down. We need help getting the chips out of everybody. We need help even finding them, right? We can get all this with court orders, right? But for that, the court needs to take us seriously, and the court needs to understand that having this resolved the right way, right, to help the victims is what the British people want in very large numbers and what they will insist on, okay? And only you can do it. Now, if you're not in Britain, the beautiful thing is you can still, push down with your weight on the British courts. In fact, if you are writing to them from abroad saying, look, we're watching from the other side of the globe, and this is important, it leaves an even bigger impression, because then they will know the entire world is watching. Now, I'm not just saying that to film my YouTube video, okay? I'm saying that because I actually need you to do this week or next week, and I would rather you do it this week, okay? I actually need you to send some letters now, and I actually need you to send some emails and make some phone calls, okay? You have to navigate the maze. You have to find out how you can get at people who matter. You can write to whatever they are called, like Master of the Rolls, I think is what it's called at the Supreme Court. It's probably something similar in the High Court, right? But you need to tell them to inform the judges that these directed energy weapons exist, and that the shutting down of this criminality is now the top priority right now to stop a genocide of the British people. And I absolutely mean it. This genocide is in full swing, right? And as you know, the 5G weapon system plays into it. But on top of the 5G weapon system, MI5 is also running death squads, and MI6, okay? Directed energy weapon wielding death squads, and they are having their little, implanting teams roam the neighborhoods, break into people's homes at night and implant them and their children while they're sleeping. And we need this shit shut the fuck down now, right? And we need to have the shutdown in 2019 so that 2020, next year, we can completely dedicate to the cleaning up operation. That means, you know, getting the chips out, finding them, you know, blah, 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 blah. We are running out of time. So this week, I need you to do something and contact the Royal Courts of Justice in London and the British judiciary, you know, overall. Please also contact the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom, because the Supreme Court judges do have a lot of power. They are kind of trendsetters, okay? You also need to contact the British Parliament and the House of Lords, right? You need to do that. Wherever the hell you are, I really need your help, okay? So please do that, okay? Now, I've got some other news. So that you understand, hang on, let me do an audio check. So please, okay, yes, it sounds good. Now, I have got some big news just to give you an idea of what's going down at this moment in time in the world. Okay, hang on, let me just check a couple of things. I have to make sure that you can, okay, wonderful, right. So, okay, let me start. So one of the things that I tweeted out this evening, and this is kind of urgent, is, or rather this morning, sorry, I haven't slept last night. It's like 9:45 a.m. and I haven't even gone to bed yet. So Ole Dammegard has issued a false flag warning. Now, for those of you who inexplicably don't know, Ole Dammegard is the researcher who has been uncovering all the false flags here in Europe, right? Professor Fetzer, James Fetzer, does that for the US false flags, and Ole Dammegard does it for the European false flags, including visiting the scenes of these false flags and doing all the forensics and really researching it and puzzling it together. But he also has been issuing warnings about future false flags, right? Because he's very skilled in reading the covert signaling and the covert signs, and he knows where to look. And he has several successes in, you know, basically preventing false flags from happening by, you know, calling the shots beforehand and warning everybody about them. So for this reason, because Ole is just so on the, you know, on the money every single time, I would encourage you all to take this very, very seriously. Now, I'm going to put the links below this video as soon as I finish broadcasting. Sorry, I wasn't organized enough to do it in, you know, ahead of time. But I'm going to put in the links, and I just would like to share my screen to show you what titles you can search for right now, if you want to bring it up. Okay, so number one, I hope you can see this. This one here is on 153news.net. So 153news.net. You can search for a keyword here. And the title is Ole Dammegard issues a false flag warning. It was posted by Gary King. Okay. And it was posted yesterday. So just a couple of hours ago. And this is an interview. It's just 12 minutes long or 13 minutes long. And Professor James Fetzer is interviewing Ole, excuse me, interviewing Ole, who is now on his Sweden trip. And you can see him that he's on the road. And what this is about, it's a false flag that involves 39 sites all around Europe, including a nuclear power station in the north of Sweden. Okay, so this organized crime cartel wants to pull off something that Ole called the 9/11 of Europe. Something really, really big to then terrorize us with and confiscate guns. And as Ole put it, it will be the usual thing of, oh, it will be Muslims and they just happen to have left their passports and blah, blah, blah. And they just happen to, you know, have praised Allah, you know, speaking into a very amazingly well-functioning microphone, right? Stuff like that. So it will be total bullshit by our secret services. But anyway, we have to take this stuff seriously, because these false flags is what they spent all their, you know, work time doing the last couple of decades. So anyway, so in case some people told me that they can't play this video, I still can. There's a longer interview of, I think this lasts half an hour, with Alfred Lambremont Weber. And this is on YouTube. It was posted also yesterday, and the title is Ole Dammegard, Sea Eagle 2019. So Sea Eagle is the code name for this bullshit operation. Is an October 23 to 24th 9/11 op in 5 EU countries unless exposed. Okay, now I really think this should be exposed. I tweeted it to Interpol and GCHQ, and I said, if any of this shit goes down, we're going to sue your ass, because with this you've been notified and it's your job to stop it. Okay, now it really would be Interpol's job to stop it if it's so international. And also GCHQ could find out, you know, within just half an hour of who's involved, because, hey, they've got access to the NSA database. So they could track how all this was organized. So surely by today lunchtime, they should have identified everybody who was involved. Thankfully, we know that now, so we can also hold them liable should they not do their job. Okay. So anyway, listen to this, because the more of you are aware, the less likely it is that this will happen. And then after that, because Ole didn't just pull this out of a hat, he places it on reports that he'd heard. So I encourage you to listen to this, take the time, because this is real people. Ole has already forestalled other stuff from happening. And, you know, really listen. And, you know, even if this doesn't happen, it's not like, oh, it's just sensationalist and then it didn't happen anyway. Well, first of all, it's good news. But second of all, you also learn the sort of shit that our intelligence agencies are planning and doing. Okay. So after that, we'll go through all the fine forensics and find out where exactly all this came from and so on. Okay. So this is one thing that I need you to know about. Now, another thing, that I would like to show you, okay, is good news, okay? So it's not all bad. With all this torture, I did manage to get some things done. More importantly, many other people got a lot of work done, to the point that I now have 30 affidavits, okay? 30 affidavits internationally under oath that I can use in court. And this is amazing. I, you know, would like to congratulate the affidavit number 30. And also one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to encourage the rest of you to get me another 20. You know, can we push it to 40 or 50 maybe? So please get it in. It's very, very important, but I would like to show you what I already can say based on just these 30. Okay, so last time I talked about analysis results, I only had 15. So now the number doubled. And the point when I had 15 was on the 4th of June. So now, just after a few months, the number doubled. And this is really, really good. Okay, so this is now my website, Stop007. And if you go, hang on, I can show you how you can find this, this page. My website is thankfully back up and running again. So if you go to the front page, the second link, submitted victim affidavits, here, that's how you get here. And I put the survey results now to the top of the page. And now the downloadable affidavits are that these results are based on are all down here. So you can see I have now got 30 from all around the world. Okay. Now these are the previous results based on 15. And this is now the results based on 30. And it's amazing. Okay. So first of all, what you can see here, this is a PDF summary of the whole thing. And just to explain to you how to read all this, okay, so these are the results from yesterday. The very first line is the item number in the affidavit template itself, okay? So you can see which answers I am, you know, highlighting here, which section answers. Oops, sorry, what happened? Now, this is the affidavit number, how many male, female. Actually, we have 50-50. So 15 affidavits from men, 15 from women. What is the year targeting started in, this column? Which country did targeting start in? Has targeting stopped since it started? Yes, no. You can see for absolutely everybody, but apart from one person here, this one here, targeting hasn't stopped. Now, the other things are the typical offenses. Do you know of any other victims? You know, surveillance, housebreaking, stalking, and so on. Hacking, financial and administrative terrorism, income sabotaged, partnership sabotaged, directed energy weapons, biowarfare, implants, voice to skull, image to skull, neurotechnology attacks, generational targeting, so when the children or the parents have been victims, and have the police denied help, have lawyers denied help, or have doctors denied help, okay? Now, these are the categories, and the next row is the percentage of people who said that they suffered a particular offense, okay? Now, the numbers in red are everything above 50%. So let me just highlight it. And in a nutshell, you can see here, everything that's in red is the dominant modes of the global targeting program. Everything that's not in red is still significant, like rounded 40% suffered financial and administrative terrorism, right? Rounded 50% had lawyers or doctors deny help, right? Typically, the other 50% sometimes didn't even contact lawyers or doctors. So this is a lower number, not the absolute real number. But one of the things that you will also find in this summary now is that I made a couple of diagrams, visual diagrams to bring home to you what this involves, okay? So number one, on here, based on these 30 cases on the left-hand side, this color scheme shows you what are the most prevalent crimes being committed against the Holocaust victims or against the targeting victims. Number one is that 97% complain about lifelong targeting, regardless of when they first became targeted. Now, if you allow me to go back, let me just remind you that the earliest people became targeted that I have here in my affidavits is 1969. Then I've got people from the 70s here, right? Then from the 80s, one person from the 80s, then the 90s, and then it starts exploding in the 2000s and later on, okay? So even if it goes back to the 1960s, everybody apart from one person said that their targeting hasn't stopped, okay? Now, 97% have surveillance, okay? Now, the one person who didn't tick surveillance might not have noticed that they're under surveillance, okay? So that's also what you have to keep in mind. But now that you have this, if you go to a police station and you print off this PDF, you can say, look, there are 30 victim affidavits under oath. This global targeting program exists, and these are the typical things. So if you go to the police station and you are saying that you're under continuous surveillance and people are stalking you and hacking your devices and attacking you with directed energy weapons, the police can't turn around and say, oh, I think you're mad, and lock you up in psychiatry, because now it's known that this global targeting exists, and that's exactly what it involves. The only correct answer the police can give you after they see this evidence is to say, oh, it looks like you are on a government targeting program, right? So here it is. And remember, right, that even the least likely has 40%, a rounded 40% likelihood. So 40% of the cases, again, almost half, will have even the least likely, which is financial and administrative terrorism. Now here it's the same numbers, but visually showing you the most prevalent here. These are percentages on this y-axis, going down to the least likely, in inverted commas, financial and administrative terrorism. But you can see that still so many cases out of 100% are complaining about this, okay? So that is in visuals. Now here, this diagram shows exactly the same 30 cases, but it shows the countries involved, okay? Now you can see that the USA and also Europe and Canada were there from the beginning. Going back to the 1960s and 1970s, it was already an international program, okay? Now the other thing is that when you look at so these are the countries where it started, the main targeting countries, and these are all the countries that it spilled over into. So again, you can see this is a global program. So the people who were targeted and said that they were targeted abroad were targeted in all these countries, So this page proves it's a global program, okay? And this one here, this final diagram, shows how this program picked up, okay? I have one case from the 1960s, 4 from the 1970s, 1 from the 1980s, 3 1990s, 9 from the 2000s, and 12 just from the past decade. And when I plot this, you know, how many cases started per decade based on the slow statistics that I have, you can already make out that this targeting program has increased. Okay, now the statistics are too low for me to fit any sort of graph to this, but you might say, you just might, although it's very shaky because of the low statistics, but it kind of looks almost like this program started in the 1960s, really had its peak in the 1970s, when maybe it was curtailed by the Church Commission, and then it went kind of underground and a bit quiet, and then it really started exploding in secrecy. And then it had a big, you know, step up after 2000 when the Patriot Act came in. You might reach that conclusion, no? It looks kind of like it. Either way, one of the things that is definitely certain, and the statistics is high enough to say that already, is that this program increased starting from the 2000s onward. Okay, yeah, right? I can certainly say that much. If the Church Commission had that big an effect, I can't say, and that's because the statistical uncertainty on 4 events is very high, you know, rounded, like roughly particle physics sort of assessment as well. The statistical uncertainty is roughly, you know, 2. It's the square root of 4, right? And it's always the square root of the number is the statistical uncertainty, right? And that's because for those experts, everybody else hold your ears, because in particle physics, we used to use Gaussian errors, even for Poissonian statistics, just to keep it simple, knowing full well that our measurement uncertainties coming from the detector are so big and so uncertain that, you know, splitting hairs over Poissonian versus Gaussian errors is really just splitting fucking hairs, you know. So this is why particle physicists will always look at any sort of counting experiment and go, square root of the number of entries in a bin is the statistical uncertainty. So that's what I'm working with here. Okay, now everybody get your fingers out of your ears. The techie stuff is over. The point is, I'm fairly confident that this program picked up starting in the 2000s. Okay, I'm pretty sure, which makes sense. All right. Now, if you print off this 5-page PDF, you have some little graphs to show these police officers. You can say, look, we're dealing with a program that is picking up, right? And then the police officer will typically say, yes, but this is just 30 events, right? And how can Dr. Horton say anything about 30 events and then conclude a global targeting program? And then you say, well, Dr. Horton is fucking amazing, number 1. Number 2, Dr. Horton also worked on low statistics measurements, right? At DAISY and at CERN. That's kind of her thing. So if she says it's okay, it's fucking okay, because she's got a fucking PhD in the matter. Okay? So any police officer who's questioning my stats and my analysis should send me an email and I'll give him a little lecture that that's just how it is, because I fucking say so. Okay? So unless your qualifications top mine, what I say goes. That's the advantage of having a freaking PhD in particle physics. So I'm telling you, you can put this in front of any police officer and say, well, we're dealing with this program which just exploded in the 2000s and I'm yet another victim. Okay? And then this page, you can say, and here, officer, this is a global program. Okay? There are so many people all around the world complaining about it. And Dr. Horton has only 30 cases, but that's because those are really long testimonies under freaking oath. And some people are still filling out that 94-page tick box survey, and they haven't quite gotten it in yet. Okay? And if we give Dr. Horton more time, she will have hundreds of answers soon, right? Soonish, I hope, right? But we can already say this is a global program. And the beauty is, this is not something I just pulled off the web. No, this is using court actionable affidavits. It's a global program, BUSTER, and all these countries listed here are involved. Okay. Now here, with this plot, you can hopefully even explain to the thickest police officer what the typical crimes are that are involved. Okay. So if anybody says that hearing voices is a sign of madness, you say, because my case, for example, also includes hacking and stalking, right? And housebreaking. And the only type of crime that fits hearing voices in conjunction with housebreaking and hacking and stalking is literally just Secret Service criminality, right? There is no psychiatric disorder that can fucking hack your computer or break into your house, right? So the only type of crime that fits the pattern is the one I've just documented here, which is Secret Service criminality. It is a criminal enterprise that combines hacking skills with a human intelligence network, right? As in a stalker network, right? And the magical skill of being able to pick any lock on the market, very much like any encryption software on the market, can be cracked too, probably by back doors or, backup keys, master keys, right? So there we are. This is the power that you have thanks to these 30 affidavits. And the only reason, right? Oh, by the way, and should they question the source, here's the two links. One is the joint investigation website, the other one is mine, and that's where they can download the real evidence under oath, right? And with that, it is end of fucking story, even for Derbyshire police, okay? Because what my witness was complaining about to you guys, right, was a lot more than what you staged your fucking entrapment operation for, guys. So sorry, that was a bad mistake. It was the worst fucking timing for your little Masonic shit show that you could have possibly picked, right? But anyway, so whoever's running Derbyshire police is now in really deep shit because what they did just doesn't look good. It looks like Masonic crime. But anyway, we'll get on to them. So what I really want you to know is that you can go to my website, you can download this PDF, you can print it off, you can send it to all your friends and say, oh, did you know that now there are court cases building based on these affidavits under oath, something that's pretty unprecedented. I have never heard about criminality being brought to justice by the general public based on, large numbers of affidavits for sophisticated technology. So this is like a big deal, right? It's like such a big deal, actually. The newspaper should be reporting about it, but they don't, right? Because they're criminals. So you have to report about it. But the thing is, I encourage you to download that PDF, right? You don't have to download all those affidavits, the 30 affidavits, though you can if you want to, but you certainly should download this PDF for your own records, because this is unprecedented evidence and it will become relevant for you as well. Okay. And with this evidence, you can already claim damages for any sort of burning that you might suffer as a result of the new 5G system, or hissing sounds that you suddenly start hearing, or maybe tinnitus, or headaches, or nosebleeds you might develop because somebody put up a 5G antenna. Okay, so all you need is this sort of evidence, this sort of PDF document to go to the police and say, 5G is a directed energy weapon system. We've got all these victims complaining about being assaulted with directed energy weapons. I think I'm a victim as well. Here's the evidence. Okay, so that's for you now, guys. That is work brought to you by 30 people, 30 witnesses who testified. And it's thanks to their hard work and their collective effort that we have this evidence now. And this shows you the power, the amazing power of working together. Thank you. I really want to thank to my 30 witnesses. I'm extremely, extremely thankful to you. And what you have done will go down in history. You really helped humanity, and your work is basically a lasting stone that we will build our future society on. Okay, it will be the corner, the keystone, the corner piece, whatever, the base stone that we will, you know, we should also put the legislation against directed energy weapons on this evidence. So this is what everything that comes from now on will be resting on. It's your evidence and your testimony. And that's why it's so important that I hear from genuine victims who honestly testify, because I can also tell you that the affidavit collection was swamped by intel agents trying to sabotage it. I have received fake passports. I have received fake testimonies that were filled out in the most nonsensical way. And, you know, there are some affidavits in here where I really wonder, is this for real or not? But then again, it fits what I know to be a genuine testimony, and I can't exclude anybody just based on suspicions, okay? So if you find an affidavit that you think is dodgy, you're very welcome to exclude it, right? I have to include it out of fairness. I can't discriminate against anybody's testimony. I try to like really put on like quality cuts, so they have to be filled out properly, and I have to have a proper witnessed signed statement of oath and so on. And, you know, I try to make sure that the photo ID I get is real, but then again, I'm not an expert. So, you know, I'm just doing my best here. But anyway, what we have is really the best thing that we can get under the circumstances. And also, should anybody sabotage it and put in fakes? Well, the only people who could ever do that or would do that are the intelligence agencies themselves, which pretty much proves the point that we're trying to prove, right? So it's a win-win situation, right? So there we are, okay? But this is, I can't stress to you how important this is. So for those people who are still testifying, you still have until the end of October. And after that, the affidavit collection still remains open. It is just that at some point, I will have to file my court case, you know, and I would have to add your testimony in later, and then it's up to the judge if he takes it or not. I hope he will, or she, you know, whoever, but, you know, basically this is the deadline. But the affidavit collection will remain open, and every affidavit counts. Even when you just submit it in December or January next year, it still counts. So please, you know, don't just think, oh, I missed the deadline, now I'm not going to finish off filling this out, okay? So more news now. Now, given that you, oh, by the way, actually, this is what I wanted to talk about also. I wanted to mention this, going back to the affidavits briefly, okay? There's something very, very important that I don't think I can stress enough, okay? Now, when you have these sort of testimonies under oath, okay, just look at the year it started and the countries it started in. Here, for example, USA. So the USA features 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times. Okay. Now, when there are 11 people testifying about the very same program with virtually identical testimonies and involving identical crimes, what you can do is go back and say, hang on a second, who was running US intel going back to 1969? And then you can take all the directors of the FBI, right, and the CIA, because we also know that they're doing domestic stuff, and you can line them up, and the NSA as well, right, the heads, top heads of the NSA who would know what shit goes down in all the departments. You line them up, you know, next to each other in chronological order going back to 1969, and then you can take them all to court because they have all been involved in the same program going back to 1969. Now, all those heads of intel who are still alive basically have their balls in a ratchet, and with every affidavit, that's just gonna get tighter, right? So the same is also true of the United Kingdom, okay? If you look at this affidavit here, for example, there's one person already testifying that it started in 1976 in the UK, right? And there's here again, UK, UK. So we can go back to all the heads of MI5 and MI6 and GCHQ, going back to 1976, put them into a neat little chronological order, and take them all to court for having run a torture and murder program. Okay? Now, that is a lot of balls and ratchets. And it really amuses me. And now these guys can, you know, they can kill me, they can spin on their head, they can do whatever the fuck they want, but they will never ever get their balls out of that ratchet ever the fuck again. Right? And the more targets and victims come forward, the basically the more deadly it will be for these guys' balls. Okay? And I don't even need to be alive for that. They'll still lose their balls in court. Okay? But you need to know what power you have based on the evidence in front of you. And this means you can now prove that all the heads of intel going back to the 1976, at least in the UK, and 1969 in the US, were all involved in this, in a Nazi-style Holocaust program. Right? There you go. You have the evidence to take them down on this alone. And then there's also the pedophilia and the running, you know, child abuse for control files and children homes. That just comes on top of these people's heads. But this is already enough, right, to get all these guys balls for Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody. And when I saw that, I was just laughing inside. In fact, the best representation of how I feel is expressed by this little dolphin. And I hope you can hear him because he's just priceless. Because when I saw the evidence, this is how I felt. I love this guy. I love this guy. So this is exactly how I feel, right? And now that we have the evidence, sorry. Now that we have the evidence, we can all be laughing about these guys because there's nothing they can do now, right? So now we're laughing, and we're laughing all the way to the court, right? And then all the way to the bank, because this is about damages for all the victims and their families, right? In the many, many, many millions. So there you go. So this is, again, the power of collective action. I couldn't have done this by myself. I really needed the help of these 30 people. But now that I have these testimonies, these are the sort of things that we can do, guys. And again, you don't need me. The testimonies are there. You can start your own affidavit collection. And even if I should be pushed under a bus by these criminals, you can still get them, right? Now you have the tools how to do it. So I thought it was great. It really made my day. Now, the other thing that I would like to say, which is not so great, but I would like to spend some time explaining this because it's kind of important, okay? What is not so great is that while I'm really working my ass, oh, actually, hang on, before I get into that, let me just check that you can still hear me. Let me just, oh, hang on, it's on this one. So I have to do some audio checks that you can still hear. Oh, yes, okay, sounds good, sounds good. So the other thing that I would like to say, which is kind of important, I really don't want to get into it. And I was told not to get into it. And I think the people who told me were absolutely right. And then I had a really careful thought about it all. And I thought, okay, it's true. I shouldn't get into it. I really can't be bothered to get into it. But then again, I don't think what's happening is right. And I have to remember that I'm not the only victim, but this is a standard operating procedure, which means that people with smaller YouTube channels, people who are less well-known, people who don't have as thick a skin as I have, will be much worse affected, okay? And the same methods will be applied to them as well. And it is for them that I would like to speak out about it, and I would like to explain to you what happened. I would like to say why it's absolutely not okay. And the third thing is what I am going to do about it. And you might like it or dislike it, but it's an option that you have as well, right, to fight back. So basically, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want us all to lose the fear of this particular, attack method on the intelligence agency shit list. Now, what I'm talking about is defamation. Okay, now there's a lot of defamation going around. When you become a victim, the intelligence agencies will slander you to your neighbors, to your local community, to the clubs that you might be a member of, to your sports club, or I don't know what, sometimes even to your own family and friends. And it is deadly because people are gullible, and people, if they hear the same story, sorry, I don't have any water. If they hear the same allegation from many people, again, humans are group animals, and they will click into adopting the group view or whatever they think is the group view. Okay, that's just how humans work. So this is why defamation is deadly, and it takes a lot of it takes a lot of spine and personal strength to stand up and question defamation and say, actually, I don't think you have the evidence to say that. So you might have that opinion, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't have the data or the evidence to conclude that. So I'm not going to go down that path. I'm not going to think about that person that way unless you give me evidence. Goodbye. Don't poison my view and don't color my view artificially of this particular person. Okay? So now I already told you that this defamation campaign, the newest wave, already came with a warning. Okay? It started off when I went on Frank Allen's radio show. It had nothing to do with Frank Allen, as far as I know, right? He had nothing to do. It was callers who called in. Now, even one or both callers might be innocent, right? It might be just coincidence, but it's a bit too unusual. So maybe one caller was innocent, the other person jumped in on it. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But fact of the matter is that on this call, there was a radio show, and there was a 2-hour, call on the victim helpline afterwards that I also joined. But already on the interview, I was asked about the old team and Ramola specifically. And then off the air, after the radio show, in the victim talk show or call in, whatever you call it, I was asked about Ramola again. Now, just 3 or 4 days later, Ramola brought out a new YouTube video with Barbara Hartwell defaming me again. This comes after, I think, a 7 or 8 month silence where she just left me the hell alone. I thought, this is just, too close together for comfort. But ever since that, which was at the end of August, the defamation kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And what she does is self-referencing, right? She has defamed me once, and now she's referencing back to what she said back then, assuming this is true, and then continues the defamation loop. Now, I don't have time to debunk it all. I would love to, and I will at some point if this continues. But at this moment in time, I'm really sick of the defamation. Now, what happened is that Ramola kept going, defaming me on different fora, and I will show you that there's a pattern to this. But now, random trolls, unnamed trolls, joined in, okay? And the general theme is, oh, I'm a perp, I'm a fraud, I'm a fake, I'm a saboteur, I'm an agent. According to Ramola, I'm a double agent. But she doesn't actually say, double agent means you're working for 2 governments. She hasn't even identified one, let alone 2, right? If anybody can tell me what she thinks the 2 governments I'm supposed to be working for are, please let me know. I would be intrigued to hear it, because I don't think there's a secret service that I haven't intended to take to court, in the foreseeable future. So anyway, but now Ramola is going after pretty much every single forum where I was somehow involved, okay? And her newest thing is the fact that I'm listed on the board of Targeted Justice. This is the class action in the US. Now, the backstory to this is that while I support the class action, and I will do anything to help them bring this to justice in the courts, I was asked by Richard Lighthouse to support them, right? And I was asked to be, an expert that they can call on. But after he asked me, I never heard back from them. So I am not going to board meetings. I don't know if they happen or when they happen or what was discussed. I'm completely out of the loop. But apparently my name is listed on their website. Now, Ramola took this to be a sign that I'm deeply involved with targeted justice, and she thought she will really break this up by going after this link. Unfortunately, there's nothing to break up. Ta-da! You know, I have literally no idea what they're doing on the board. I'm not sitting on the board. I've never attended the board meeting. You know, sorry, wrong number, right? Wrong number. But nevertheless, I want now to go through and actually analyze what exactly her problem is and analyze why that type of defamation is so toxic in the community. Okay. Now, for those people who don't know, just a bit of backstory, and this is kind of important. The reason why this matters is the following. So I would like to share my screen and show you what the backstory is on based on a diagram. So on my website, you can go down here, and guys, I'm going somewhere with this, so please bear with me. If you scroll down here, attacks and refusal of assistance, click on this, and then down here you will find Ramola, and there I made a diagram showing how she systematically went after every project, and that was starting in August last year. So this started here. On the 2nd of August, she single-handedly broke up the Techno Crime Fighters Forum without telling me or any of the others ahead of time. Karen was in shock. I was in the chat and I couldn't get on because she didn't send the invite, and she terminated it single-handedly. But it didn't stop there, okay? That was in August. After that, she spent months lobbying Melanie Richan to stop working with me, and then started doing defamation videos with Melanie. Now, Melanie is a person that wasn't on the Techno Forum, and I worked with her in Brussels, in Europe. So this connection was a purely European thing. So imagine, after I've been kicked off the American forum, these were 3 Americans, I was the only European, Ramola, residing in Boston, went after a European project, a purely European project, where I was involved to measure body chips in victims. After that, she went after another purely European project, which is I was supporting Frederic Laroche, and I had been by over a year by that time, for his court case, okay? And Ramola got Frederic Laroche to lie about me, right? He claimed that I'd sabotaged his court case in June 2018 by not turning up. This was a complete lie that he also admitted. Now, the reason why it's obviously a lie is because I was only an expert witness. When an expert witness doesn't turn up to a court case, even though the expert witness has been invited or ordered by the court to turn up, the court case still proceeds, and it's only the expert witness who is in contempt of court. But I wasn't in contempt of court because the court case never happened. And Frederic contacted me telling me that he wants to sack his lawyer, which he did 3 days before his court case, and asked me what to do. And I said, well, Frederic, it sounds to me like a new lawyer is not going to be able to actually understand your case within 3 days. I would advise you to shift the court hearing, but only you can do it. And there's an entire email correspondence between me and Frederic where he sacked his lawyer. And I said, you know, he asked me for advice. I said, I would shift the date, right? By that time, I traveled back from Hungary, and I was in Zurich, right? 3 days before I would have had to travel to Grenoble. And I've only traveled back from Hungary because of Frederic Laroche's court case. So imagine my surprise and my pissed offness when 6 months later, Ramola claims that I'd sabotaged Frederic Laroche's court case by not turning up. Right? I had literally driven over 1,000 kilometers to be back in Switzerland, to be ready to go to Grenoble because of Frederic Laroche, right? And when I clarified, Frederic admitted that he lied to basically curry favor with Ramola. But this comes after these two have been in very frequent, I would assume, nearly daily contact. and I didn't know about it. Now, it was also daily contact that Ramola kept with Melanie, and this is what Melanie confirmed to me. So basically, after breaking up this project, Ramola, successfully broke up this and poisoned this work relationship, and she successfully broke up my working relationship with Frederic Laroche. Now, American project, European project, European project. Now, these two are three people that I have nothing to do with who also attacked me in conjunction with Ramola and stand in very close contact to her, right? So the common denominator in all this is Ramola. That's the backstory, and it's all documented on this website, right? I didn't go after Ramola. She got herself involved in projects that I was involved in. Okay, and it's all documented here with a timeline and what exactly happened and who said what. So that's the backstory. So now imagine my surprise when I suddenly find that Ramola is going after my connection to Targeted Justice, this US class action, right? Now that is the fourth work project that she goes after, right? One was the Techno Forum, the other one my work with Melanie, the third was my work with Frederic Laroche, and now it's my, potential work with Targeted Justice for this class action that is hopefully launching soon, right? So there, I'm not involved yet, but I would like to support them, right? I would like to be in touch, and I would like to help them succeed as much as I want the European court cases to succeed, right? It makes sense. So imagine how I fell out of all the clouds when somebody sent me an excerpt from this video, and then I had to track down the original. And imagine there's an interview Ramola does with Eric Karlstrom, and she hijacks that to slander me. But now listen carefully. Actually, I think I have to share my screen again to include the audio. Now listen carefully to what her problem is, okay? Because it's very, I hope you can hear it. I really hope that the audio is being shared as loud as it ought to be. Okay, now I went ahead. This is 1 hour, 17 minutes. And I'm just going to play it, and I'm going to comment on this. Okay, oops, sorry. Listen.
That was a good clue that he is an infiltrator. There's an
sorry, so before that, they're talking about other people who they consider infiltrators, okay? So I'm not going to comment on Eric Karlstrom because he hasn't slandered me directly, and I don't even want to go into all the other defamation that might be happening. I mean, Eric might have his reasons. I don't want to get into that. I'm just looking at the defamation of me because I know myself, and, I know what's true and what's wrong about me. So anyway, so I cut out Eric. You can listen to him. This is the Global Gestapo episode number 12, by the way. And I should also say that this was removed from YouTube, and I have nothing to do with that, because when it was removed, I didn't even know about this video. I only got to know about this video, I think, yesterday or the day before when I tweeted about it. So, but this video is, I think, from September or something like that. Yes, 25th of September 2019. And this is on Professor Eric Karlstrom's website, gangstalkingmindcontrolcults.com. And the title is Global Gestapo number 12, Dr. Eric Karlstrom and Ramola D., Stephen O'Keefe and Gloria Naylor, the counterintelligence Zionist superstate. Okay. Now, in this interview, it's only Ramola and Eric Karlstrom talking, and they're talking about Gloria Naylor's book and so on. But interspersed is this defamation of activists in the victim community, including myself. Okay, so now listen carefully.
Kind of unvarnished truth-telling down, which is why I have been kept down by Targeted Justice. Oops. They refused to publish or post any of my reportage on their website way back when, Midge had been interviewed by me. She was in touch with me. And then when I asked her to go ahead and use my articles, go ahead and post them, etc., no response, nothing. And in fact, Jack Christiana at one point said to me, there's some issues with credibility about your work. And I dare anybody to look at my journalism and point out to me in anything that I have written or said an issue with credibility. What I practice is explorative and investigative journalism, and I say that up front, and I publish everything. I can't be responsible for everything everybody else says. That's their people's philosophies are not my philosophy. But I'm working as a reporter and a writer here, and I think it's my prerogative to post other people's words as I think is apposite, because it's all part of this investigative space, this truth-telling and investigative truth-seeking space, you see. So in any case, Targeted Justice did not recognize my work, refused to recognize my work, but hello. They went after Katherine Horton, despite her agent provocateur behavior, her saboteur behavior, and her smear ops, defamation campaign running behavior. So that's who they have on their board. So you have to question, well, what the heck are they doing when they've got people like Katherine Horton on their board? What kind of message are they sending to the world?
Well, this is, of course, their strategy is to say, hey, we've got this under control. So you can go home, you can, go play with your kids or go serve on the PTA, or just don't get involved because we've got it. We are the controlled opposition.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Which we've just heard them describe as one of their key strategies. By the way, I think that
Okay, so you can listen to the rest, right? And I hope you guys can hear it. Maybe I can catch the end of the replay. Okay, so you can listen. Yes, okay, sounds like you could hear this. I'm very pleased about that. Now, I would like to analyze that, okay? Because it is direct defamation, and this time I'm going to answer, and I also kind of, had this resolution. So the entire altercation with Ramola started a week before Techno broke up, and it had nothing to do with what Ramola portrayed it to be, because she said, oh, Katherine swears so much and she won't stop. And, oh, she keeps appealing for violence. And we just didn't like that. That's why we don't want her on Techno. Now, both of them, I swear a lot and I refuse to stop. That's true. That's absolutely true. But I also made it clear that I'm very much in favor of freedom of speech and also being allowed to express your emotions, even if they are angry emotions, right? And you're certainly allowed to swear. Now, I've never appealed for violence. If I would appeal for violence, I wouldn't spend working my ass off preparing court cases, right? So I have never in my life appealed for violence. However, I am in favor of the death penalty, the lawful death penalty for high treason, mass murder, and war crimes. Simply because these people, they will regroup in jail, they will be ferreted out by their Masonic operatives, and they will regroup, and you cannot shut them down unless you execute their leaders and you execute everybody who has been planning and committing mass murder against other citizens. I am totally for that, right? For many reasons, okay? Not just personal reasons, also systems analysis reasons. But this is not appealing for violence. This is appealing for the law to be applied as it is the law in many countries, including in the United States, right? So we are talking two different things here now. But even though Ramola portrayed it to be the reason for the breakup of Techno, that is not actually true. Well, the entire argument started a week before that, and the week before Techno broke up, there was no sign of Techno breaking up because we had finished the previous broadcast actually discussing in a group how we want to expand Techno to a new show just to discuss Millicent's documentation because she has done so much research. And that is a true fact that keeps being dropped here, that Techno the week before was never meant to be dropped. It was meant to be expanded to a second spin-off show. And Ramola likes to forget that. So if things had been so bad, why would this team have discussed the previous week on basically doubling the Techno effort, right? Now that's one big fat lie that she's now spun, that it was, oh, this thing was breaking apart. No, it wasn't. The week before we were discussing about expanding Techno. Now, the other thing is that the whole altercation started when Ramola wanted to leave the show, and I've got the evidence to prove that. She said she wants to leave Techno because she wants to spend more time on her pros and her private projects. And I said, okay, if you want to leave, I can take over the hosting, because she was hosting it so far. And that was something she volunteered to do. It was Paul Marco's, Dr. Paul Marco's and Mindy's show. Ramola volunteered to host it when it was too much work for Paul Marco and Mindy, but she doesn't have a monopoly on that. So if she wanted to leave, I said, okay, I'm going to host it. And that's because Karen didn't have a computer at the time and Millicent's computer kept being hacked. So I said, okay, I'm going to host it, right? Now, Ramola got upset saying, oh, I wanted to hog the show. And, oh, she's not important and all the other people are not important. I said, no, this is not what this is about. But the whole thing spun out of control, okay? And in my books, it turned into a big jealousy thing, okay? Which I thought was inexplicable because Ramola had hosted the show for a year and a half. Now, again, in this video, I again see this absolutely inexplicable jealousy element, okay? That is being spun massively out of control and is turned around into a smear operation against myself. Okay, now here, if you listen to this, and I would like to go sentence by sentence, but oh yes, this is what I wanted to say. So for those of you who don't know, this altercation started a year ago, over a year ago. And then it died down in January. And in January, I decided I'm not going to reply. I'll just let it cool down. And there was silence from about January, February to basically the end of August, when Ramola on her terms fired it all up, right? It was her initiative. I haven't spoken about Ramola or mentioned her, nor do I really want to. But since then, it kept happening. Now, one of the things I said is that after the 1 year mark got passed and I still being defamed, that is the moment. Now we are at the end of October. This is the moment when I had enough. And now I'm going to answer every single time. Okay, I will not let it pass, because this is a big fat pile of lies that she is dishing up. And I want to show you exactly the pile of lies that she's dishing up right now. And I want you to understand how this pans out, how damaging it is, so that if you see these kind of lies dished up against any other victim, you know how important it is that you speak up in their favor. Not just my favor with Ramola, but you need to speak up about any sort of defamation that you hear about, because it's hugely damaging and your input is required to disable the defamation and the harm that is causing to a person's life, okay? So I want this not to be about me. I want this to be a collective exercise in analyzing where shit like that comes from, how damaging it is, what sort of messages get pumped into people's brains subconsciously that then solidify into, supposed established opinions and facts that are nothing the like. And then I want us to find out what the fuck to do about shit like this. Okay? So this is what this is about. So now let me share my screen and let's just go through again what the problem is. Okay? So basically, here, if we go back to the actual original,
what you're doing,
the original complaint,
reported the narrative the narrative and putting out stories out there. Okay. So many of them coming from different angles and different areas, etc. And striving to keep any kind of unvarnished truth telling down, which is why I have been kept down by Targeted Justice.
Now let's just wait a second. So she says these people, Targeted Justice, are trying to keep the unvarnished truth down, and that's why Ramola has been kept down by Targeted Justice. Okay, now keep in mind that I'm nominally on their board, but I'm not involved in their board. I have no idea what they're saying, but I still support the class action, right, as a thing to do. And now I really question Ramola's allegation that Targeted Justice has kept Ramola down. Excuse me, Targeted Justice is a class action. Ramola is a blogger who claims to be a journalist and has a YouTube channel. How is her continuing what she's done anyway, posting blogs and posting YouTube interviews, how has that been in any way hampered by Targeted Justice? Now, what she means is that Targeted Justice refused, as she says, to post her articles on their website. But why should they? They are a class action. Right? What has Ramola's work got to do with litigation? Why should they post anything? And how narcissistic and conceited do you have to be to get upset about somebody not posting your stuff? Right? I mean, we're getting back to thinking, or getting back to my comment about how I said this woman seems to be thinking she's Madonna, right? We should all be bowing down to her. So, right? I mean, this is, and be very, very careful, because when you're listening to this, the message you will take away is that Targeted Justice tried to keep down, Ramola D. But really, how would they have done that? I mean, how could Targeted Justice even possibly keep down Ramola, even if they wanted to? Have they removed her videos? Have they censored her blog posts? Heck no. Right? So, okay, so this is it already, right here. Okay, and that's exactly what she said.
Dang, if I'm on this board, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, that was a good clue that he is an infiltrator. There's an infinite amount of money to infiltrate our ranks and to co-opt us and push us.
I think there must be, just looking at the kind of huge methodologies in place and the number of people that have infiltrated and the way in which they're kind of really controlling the narrative and, putting out stories out there. So many of them coming from different angles and different areas, etc. And, striving to keep any kind of unvarnished truth-telling down, which is why I have been kept down by Targeted Justice. They refused to publish or post any of my reportage on their website way back when, Midge had been interviewed by me. She was in touch with me. And then when I asked her to go ahead and use my articles, go ahead and post them, etc., no response, nothing. And in fact, Jack Christiana at one point said to me, there are some issues with credibility about your work. And I dare anybody to look at my journalism and point out to me in anything that I have written or said an issue with credibility. What I practice is explorative and investigative journalism, and I say that up front, and I publish everything. I can't be responsible for everything everybody else says. That's obviously.
Okay, now that's interesting. So basically, Ramola is upset, and she's now picking a fight with Targeted Justice, right? That, as I said, I've got nothing really to do with, apart from the fact that Richard Lighthouse asked me to be on the board, I think 1.5 or 2 years ago, right? So she has an issue because they have not posted her articles, and they are class action, right? Now, Ramola doesn't write that much on litigation, but still, this is something private between Midge Mathis and or Targeted Justice and Ramola. Okay, now she expands their refusal to be the conclusion that these people are trying to keep a lid on truthful reporting. Now, there is no such evidence. They just perhaps didn't think that her articles suited the format that they wanted to have on their website, right? So again, right, there's this huge slander already happening. Now, the other thing that I find very amusing is now at the end when she said, I can't be held responsible for what other people are saying. Oh, really? Well, you felt responsible for what I was saying on the Techno Forum to the point that you shut it down on a pretext. Right? So that's a big fat lie, but that's just a footnote, right? I mean, the bigger lie here is to just insinuate that Targeted Justice is holding a lid on truthful reporting. Hello, they are launching a class action against neuroweapon attacks, directed energy weapon attacks, and non-consensual implanting, and they've got their affidavits also on their website. How is that putting a lid on anything? Right? It's already a smear. So now let's continue.
That's their people's philosophies are not my philosophy, but I'm working as a reporter and a writer here, and I think it's my prerogative to post other people's words as I think is apposite, because it's all part of this investigative space, this truth-telling and investigative truth-seeking space, you see. So
okay, so basically, I think from what she said, I suspect that maybe Jack Christiana, or, you know, by the way, Jack Christiana is a lawyer, right? So Jack Christiana had some issues with her reporting, and, you know, okay, what could that be? Now, Ramola emphasizes that she's not responsible for what other people are saying. So I suspect that the, you know, the issue that Jack Christiana might have raised was with some people she interviewed and what those people were saying. Okay, fine. But anyway, right, this is still something between Targeted Justice and Ramola, and it has nothing to do with me. But now listen.
In any case, Targeted Justice did not recognize my work, refused to recognize my work, but hello, they went after Katherine Horton.
Okay. Now, how exactly did they go after Katherine Horton? As I said, Richard Lighthouse, who, by the way, previously in this recording, Professor Eric Karlstrom says how Richard Lighthouse asked him to be on the board. And Professor Karlstrom says that he was for a week, but then there was some sort of, you know, disagreement between him and Richard Lighthouse, and he withdrew. Well, I never had any disagreements, so I didn't withdraw. So basically, Professor Karlstrom and I had exactly the same deal. We were asked to be on the board and support the class action. We both said yes. And the only difference between me and Karlstrom is that he withdrew after a week and I didn't. And I haven't heard from Targeted Justice since. Right? Now, why does Ramola not say, oh, but hello, they went after you, Eric? And instead she says, oh, but they went after Katherine Horton. Do you see what I mean? There's this massive bias, and I'm being picked out, and I have nothing to do with them. I didn't even have detailed conversations with Richard Lighthouse. I interviewed him, but I haven't spoken to him about anything to do with the board, which I guess is fair enough because I'm in Europe, but Eric Karlstrom is in the US, right? So he's closer to them than I am. So he has more discussions, but why am I being picked out by Ramola, right? So they went after me. Well, the only thing they have is, I think, my name on the website, and I think a link to my name and a link to my website, and that's it. Okay, but now let's listen.
Despite her agent provocateur behavior.
Despite my agent provocateur behavior. Okay, allegation number 1.
Her saboteur behavior.
Saboteur behavior.
And her smear ops, you know, defamation campaign running behavior.
Allegation number 3, defamation smear op running behavior. Okay, so agent provocateur behavior, saboteur, and defamation campaign running. These are the 3 things she just accused me of. Now, based on what I've just shown you, okay, this thing that I can't bring up, where is it? Here. Okay, I've just shown you the diagram, which is documented here. Now, what Ramola did is sabotage the Techno Forum without warning, right? And then basically defamation campaign against me to Melanie, whereby these 2 ladies were talking to each other every day, as I found out from Melanie. And Melanie was telling me that she's getting upset with Ramola for contacting her every day and telling Melanie, so Ramola was telling Melanie that I'm an agent and Melanie should break off the work with me. Now that is defamation. So we have sabotage and defamation, and agent provocateur is basically Ramola, right, provoking Frederic Laroche into lying about me. That is exactly agent provocateur behavior. So isn't this amazing? That she has done all this, and it's been long documented going back to August last year. And now she turns it around and she accuses me of the exact things that she herself has done. Isn't that, and she does that in the face of obvious evidence of her lying, right? And she knows this website because she complained about the title image. So I had to change the title image because of her complaint. So she knows this. She knows about all the evidence that's here, right? She's never questioned this. She's never given me counter evidence to say, oh, no, sorry, this email is fabricated. No, all the emails and all the screenshots I put there are the truth, right? And it's right here. And in the face of obvious evidence to the contrary, she is lying. Now, this is pathological lying. She is accusing me of sabotaging things and of defaming people, running defamation campaigns and being an agent provocateur. Who was I an agent provocateur to? Who did I defame? Whose projects did I sabotage? She sabotaged 3 of my projects I was involved in. Do you see what I mean? It is so ludicrous. It is crazy. Another question is, when you're faced with something like that, I've put up all the evidence that I possibly can, right, online to document what exactly happened. And nevertheless, a year later, my followers are sending me this video and they're saying, oh, there she goes again. What's the newest thing about you now, right? I mean, when does it stop? When does Ramola's pathological lying stop? And what the hell can I do to make her stop? Right? Now I can explain this now in this video. And the next step is I can take her to court and have a court make her stop. Right? But I would like to flag this thing, which I really consider pathological lying. Okay? So anyway, so this is one thing here. Okay, let me just make sure I've completed the sentences that she was saying. So
that's who they have on their board. So you have to question, well, what the heck are they doing when they've got people like Katherine Horton on their board? You know, what kind of message are they sending to the world?
Well,
so this is her, and this goes directly trying to put a wedge between me and Targeted Justice. She is putting out there, what sort of image are Targeted Justice projecting by having people like Katherine Horton on their board? Now, this is an open public invitation for Targeted Justice to drop me as an inactive, non-executive board member. And that's what she's doing. She is lobbying and putting public pressure on Targeted Justice, dropping me from their board. Right? And just look at her face. Just look at her face as she's saying this.
To post other people's words, as I think is apposite, because it's all part of this investigative space, this truth-telling and investigative truth-seeking space, you see. So in any case, Targeted Justice did not recognize my work, refused to recognize my work, but hello, they went after Katherine Horton, despite her agent provocateur behavior, her saboteur behavior, and her smear ops, defamation campaign running behavior. So that's who they have on their board. So you have to question, well, what the heck are they doing when they've got people like Katherine Horton on their board? You know, what kind of message are they sending to the world?
Well, this is, of course, their strategy is to say, hey, we've got this under control. So you can go home, you can, go play with your kids or go serve on the PTA, or just don't get involved. Because
hang on a second. Is that what I'm really saying to you guys? Go home and don't get involved? Or am I just appealing every single time for help? Right? Last week, I put out the final boarding call for people to get on board, to get involved, to write the affidavits, right? There's an entire section on my website saying what you can do to get involved. I keep saying, write your own flyers or download the ones I have up, the ones that Karen Stewart has written, right? Here's the court cases I'm supporting. Come to the court cases, be in the court observer. I keep saying, get involved, contribute your own stuff. How am I keeping anything the fuck down? Right? So again, there are all these allegations and you're going away with this thing of, oh yeah, well, Katherine Horton, she's a bad person, and Targeted Justice is really sending out the wrong message. And when you actually look into this, it is all lies, right? It is all lies. I'm not telling you, oh, you just go home, keep watching your TV shows. I've got this, guys. Just don't look over here. Look over there. I've got this. No, I'm doing the opposite. I'm doing the freaking opposite. I'm begging for your help every single week. So I don't get this, right?
Because we've got it. We are the controlled opposition.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Which we've just heard them describe as one of their key strategies. By the way, I think that what you're doing as a journalist is the very best approach. And
Okay, and then it's like, okay, you're telling the truth and you're reaching out. And I just agree with that, right? I never really had a problem with Ramola. And before I fell out of all the clouds and realized, you know, what she was really like and what she'd done to techno, I was happy working with her. I never had a problem, right? I literally never had a problem with her from my side up until the 2nd of August when she broke up techno and then went nuts, defaming me and continuing to this day. So I'm happy with that. But at the same time, we have to do more. At some point in this recording, you can listen to the whole thing. Ramola is lamenting the fact that when she started reporting about all this 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, you know, now that she looks back, nothing has changed. And I'm like, yeah, duh, because all you did is report about it, right? How much do you think this war machinery cares about it? I mean, how much did the war machinery care as they were murdering over 1 million Iraqis that the newspapers were reporting about the fact that they were murdering over 1 million Iraqis? They didn't care at all. They continued murdering. So they will continue killing and murdering us, even if you report about it. So whatever we have to do, it has to be more. Reporting is only ever notifying other people, pinging them to be alert, to know about this, to activate them. But the real thing is the next step. What do we then do, right? And that is the $1 trillion question. What the fuck do we do, right? But then bashing everybody who's actually onto the next stage that follows the reporting bit, which is the class action in the US, which is my court case here in Europe, right? Which is me supporting other court cases like that of Frederic Laroche, or me working with Melanie to get evidence for court cases, trying to measure the chip implants, right? Hello, Ramola. Well, those are the things that make the difference when the reporting is not enough in itself. Do you see? So if you guys are bashing the doers, don't be surprised if nothing changes, right? I mean, you can bash the doers if you have a better idea and you're like, no, that's shit, Catherine. Let's do this because this is so much better. Sure, go for it. Then I will join your project if it's that great, right? But just sitting around and bashing people, that's just moronic beyond anything, right? So this really pissed me off, but that was not the only thing that happened, okay? And this is what I'm saying, because either Ramola works with people, and I don't want to allege that, but for sure people want to work with Ramola and want to work Ramola. That much is sure. But there's a much bigger operation of defamation that is now firing up. The closer I get to court cases, the more of this is coming. Now, there was another very quaint example of this, right? When
by the way,
sorry.
I'm doing the same.
Sorry, let me just minimize this. Where an agent, and I call him an agent because I'm pretty sure that this is what he is, an agent from Britain, as in Andrew Parker's or Alex Younger's, one of their dipshits, was trying to slander me. And this one was hilarious. Now, I have to say that the YouTube channel disappeared, okay? The video disappeared, and the Twitter, that the tweet that sent me the notification of this video disappeared. So, excuse me. So to me, it looks very much like MI5, MI6 wanted me to receive this defamation video and probably get upset about it. Okay, I'm going to system judo them by taking that video and now commenting on it and exactly explaining what these people are doing and what they're trying to achieve. Okay, now this thing I thankfully downloaded as soon as I saw it onto my hard drive so I can play you the video that is now not on YouTube anymore. Okay, but at the time there's also trace of this when I was tweeting the URL, because I took a screenshot and I tweeted out the screenshot. Let me just show you. Let me share my screen so that in this video I have all the evidence, okay, in one place. Now, here I took a screenshot of the video that this agent, this British agent did, and you can see this is the screenshot of how the video played, and here at the top is the URL, okay? And this was a tweet that, so this was a screenshot I took on the 17th of October, 2019 at 2:42 a.m. So this, at the bottom right, you will see my desktop with a timestamp, okay? Now this tweet here was a tweet that I sent out, and I was complaining. I was saying, who did this video, because I can't find this guy's channel. And I tried, this screenshot is using, I think, Chrome, and this screenshot is using Internet or Firefox. And with none of them did the channel show up. So I can't see, you can see that this is gray, and this YouTube video looked like none of the others, because I couldn't even see what channel had posted it. The video played, and you can see how it loaded and actually started playing it. But on two browser types, I couldn't see the channel ID, and here this stuff, the suggestions from YouTube weren't showing up. So it was almost like when you clicked on the URL, you were taken to a private room that was probably run by GCHQ, okay? Just for my private viewing pleasure of their defamation video. Very interesting. But all this is documented. So this video didn't even show its channel ID on two browsers to me. Very interesting, okay? So this is a tweet that I sent on the 17th of October, 2019 at 2:55 a.m., okay, local time. And it's this exchange with Ella Free here from Freedom for Targeted Individuals. And in here would have been the tweets that actually sent me this link. But then, as you can see, tweets have disappeared. Okay, so this is the backstory. Now let's listen to this video, because again, it is highly instructive. Okay, so this is now the downloaded video, and it's being told by this bloke who I will just, in my view, I'll call him the MI5/MI6 agent. Okay, this British intel agent. And he's talking about infiltrators. And basically, he goes through different people and he says, oh, this person is okay, that person is okay, this person is dodgy, that person is dodgy. And in this video, okay, which is about 10 minutes long, there's only two people he identifies as dodgy. Number one, a flat earther who joined, I think, Targeted Justice or something, on one of the US targeting meetings. And the second person is me. Okay, I'm identified by him as being a fraud. But now listen to his reasoning, okay? So let me share my screen with audio. Yes, okay. So I hope this plays. I hope the volume is on max. Okay. So this is now not Ramola's video. This is another guy, but he's talking about Ramola and all my other colleagues. Okay, so here we go.
Ramola, up till probably about a year ago, used to run a regular podcast with 4 intelligent and articulate ladies: Karen Stewart, Millicent Black, Katherine Horton, and of course Ramola. Out of the 4, can you spot the odd one out? Maybe this will help.
Okay, and then he goes to...
How the fuck is wearing a tinfoil hat going to help our cause? Katherine also used to mention that she'd been implanted with chips all over her body, including a number in her vagina, and that when she was doing some of these podcasts, they were attacking her there. Katherine, unfortunately, is my idea of a disinformation agent. The Techno Crime Fighters Forum came to an end not because of Katherine's penchant for wearing tinfoil hats and surrounding herself with tin foil, but she used to advocate violence in some of the podcasts, and Ramola, etc., decided she had to go. So soon after, Katherine was ejected from the forum, and the forum was terminated. Katherine Horton is now one of the board members of the TargetedJustice.com website, a website that Barbara Hartwell is very suspicious of. You'll have to visit it and make your own mind up and read what Barbara has said about it and some of those members. one last thing before I end this video, and that is something that Ella has apparently said about some of her callers. And that something is that
So
they...
this is about other stuff, and I just would like to focus on the stuff that's about me. Now, I would like to take this apart because this guy actually did me a huge favor without noticing. And at this stage, I really would like to thank Andrew Parker and Alex Younger for having hired absolute gibbering morons for the last couple of decades, because these people are literally dumb as fuck. And that is my, what's going to save me. Because this video, ladies and gentlemen, was a heaven sent. So close before my court case. Thank you guys, because you managed to put in the link between US and British intel that I'm very keen on kind of bolstering and backing up for my court case. And now I would like to explain to everybody the wonderful, delightful present that Andrew Park and Alex Younger have actually generated for me by getting one of their dipshits to put out this video. It was beautiful. And also with the entire GCHQ shenanigans of the channel ID not showing for a very long time, almost like the whole thing was being literally put up online and loaded for my private viewing as I was viewing it. Brilliant. I couldn't have picked it any other better way myself. But now let's analyze this bit by bit, and let's literally see how the intelligence agencies showed their hand. Now, number one, note how this person also is picking at my connection with Targeted Justice, just like Ramola. Why? I mean, Targeted Justice invited me to be on their board back in 2017, if I remember correctly. So for 2 years, and by the way, back then, I was on Techno. Ramola knew. I kept referring to Targeted Justice repeatedly, right? So for 2 years, nothing changed. I have not been in touch with Targeted Justice since then. So why bring it up right now in October and September 2019, after having remained silent about it for 2 years? Why exactly now? Well, the answer is because now we're launching the court cases, and it is the court cases that people need to break up, okay? So the point is that if you really want to disrupt people fighting back, you have to get in exactly at the moment when court cases are launching, okay? So the timing of this already shows us where their pain points are. What do you guys want to disrupt? Of course, the court cases and the cross-referencing of court cases. So if Targeted Justice launched their class action, I remained on their board. I was launching my own court case in Europe, and the two would cross-reference each other. First of all, it would benefit me because I could point to a live running class action in the United States, talking about exactly what I'm talking about. Now, how would that also benefit Targeted Justice? Well, the reason behind that link is that investigators in the United States, namely Michael McKibben and his team, have traced the origin and the top-level control of US intelligence back to Britain. Surprise, surprise. So in other words, if there's a class action that's not going anywhere in the US, but there's a court case against Intel in Britain, they can point to this court case and say, oh, actually, this court case is going up against the top control tier that is also controlling us in the United States. So the two things would merge, and suddenly the class action in the US and my court case against British intelligence in London would be against the same entity. Do you understand? Two spears would be brought together and brought to descend down on British intelligence and the lords and sirs that Michael McKibben identified, who control both British and US intel. Now, this is the moment when apparently Alex Younger and Andrew Parker start shitting their pants and have to get out some dipshit from some desk drawer to make this video. Okay, so that's the point where they want to, that's what they really want to break up, the European-US connection. Why? It's because if we unify all the cases in our forces, we will have them by lunchtime. We will actually have these people by, for breakfast. That's why. That's where all this is coming from. But in order to understand, you need to have listened to Michael McKibben on the American intelligence media. You know, you would have had to listen to him tracing US intel, the foundation of it, back to British intel, back to the Privy Council, to the Pilgrim Society and all that. And you would have to figure out, hang on a second, class action in the US, court case in London. Whoa, that is like, you know, it's almost like two spears meeting, you know, in the same place. But for that, you have to put complex information and background information together that you might not have if you're not as deep in the matter as I am. Now, I can tell you that this is how it is. Now you can go back and check that this is indeed how it is. And now we can figure these people out. Actually, they have done us a favor, because basically it's almost like MI5 and MI6 going like, excuse me, miss, we really have a problem with you working with targeted justice. If they had picked up the phone and said that, I would be like, oh, thanks for telling me, morons, boom, right? Now, they couldn't do that, but they effectively have done that. So I'll just say, thanks for telling me, morons, you know? Okay, so this is the key. So now we know what we do, what we need to do. We need to, you know, go even closer between the US and Europe, because apparently that really bothers them. So let's do more of that, shall we? Okay, now continue listening, because how exactly are they trying to, you know, take me down? Let's listen to this again, because it has a wealth of very important forensic evidence.
On a regular podcast.
So I'm going back to the beginning, and he's explaining how, oh, Ramola is great. And then now also listen to who are the people this random dude is referencing. Now, how do I know that he's British? First of all, because he's got a British accent, which has a tinge of working class, you know, sort of pronunciation. I can't quite place the pronunciation. Could be London. It could be London, some part of London, but I'm not an expert on that. I'm a foreigner. I don't have the ear for that. So please, somebody who's much better at this, figure this out. But this YouTube channel, in the brief moment when it flashed up, it actually, the about section of the YouTube channel had a contact email, and that's what was TargetedLondon@gmail.com, I think. So TargetedLondon, I definitely remember that, because I commented on that on Twitter. I thought, Targeted London, which part of London? Perhaps the, you know, the bit around Vauxhall, perhaps, you know, where MI6 has their HQ. So anyway, this douchebag, I think, is British intel. I'm pretty sure about that. And now when you listen to him, he's referencing Ramola, but then later he's referencing Barbara Hartwell. So at the very end, he says, oh, and, you know, Katherine Horton now is on the board of Targeted Justice. Check out the website and check out what Barbara Hartwell says about these people. Why do you have to listen to Barbara Hartwell? Why can't this douchebag tell you what his issue is? Why? Because this is a US-UK joint intel operation. And what he does is he uses somebody else as a reference. It's like, hey, I'm not telling you. It's this other person over there who says that. I'm just quoting them. Now, in your mind, it's meant to generate this impression of there's a group. There's him and there's Barbara Hartwell. So you will have heard it twice if you ever listen to the interview by Barbara Hartwell. And in your mind, you will amplify these two people to a crowd. You will think, oh, yeah, all these people are saying the same thing, right? That's the trick. So this is why intel agencies do this defamation. It's almost like a game of volleyball. They pass the ball to each other and they each have to score, okay, against a person. So it's this kind of game of pass the ball, right? This game of volleyball in defamation, and this cross-referencing, like, oh, he said that and he said that as well, and that person said that too. Yeah, but what if all of you are on the same team? You know? So, right, keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that this guy, I've never fucking heard of him. I've never seen him, you know, post year after year evidence on his YouTube channel. I haven't seen him run an email campaign trying to inform the British Parliament and every single police force in Europe, which is stuff that I've done. So who the fuck is this guy? He just seemed to have popped out of the ground like a mushroom after rain. You know, with a very specific mission, which is to slander me and some random flat earther who most likely also works for them, right? So very, very interesting. Now let's listen to this carefully because there's more, okay?
With 4 intelligent and articulate ladies, Karen Stewart, Millicent Black, Katherine Horton, and of course, Ramola. Out of the 4, can you spot the odd one out? Maybe this will help.
Okay, now let's take this apart because you see this image where I, because it's a screenshot, I look particularly dopey and hapless, okay? Now this is really funny. He really did me a favor by picking that particular video, and I have to thank Andrew Parker and Alex Younger for picking it like that because this is fucking brilliant. Now, also note that he is saying, pick the odd one out, and then he picks me behind shielding with alu on my head and with alu wrapped on my chest because they were shooting me in the heart, and this way I could at least hear the shots as an early warning system. Now, he says, pick the odd one out of this set, but one of the things that he ignores is that actually Karen has shielding behind her. She, just like I, sleeps under shielding. She even publicly talks about it. And when she's out and about, she has a lead linen baseball cap. And she recommended people have the same thing. And actually, she's right. I should have something like that. And I should finally listen to her. I just hate caps so very much. I hate hats. So anyway, but at home, when the machine guns are aimed at my head nonstop, I have to wrap my alu and even my head in alu. But even though it's not 100% shielding, and what people need to understand is the aluminium makes these pulsed energy projectiles audible and very often visible. That's what I use the alu for, okay? Aluminium foil only protects you from microwaves, classical microwaves. So if your skin is burning, one layer of alu should help. But if you're being shot with pulsed energy projectiles, which seem to be fundamentally new waveforms and possibly new physics, a layer of alu will do jack shit. However, it will still make a noise when you're being shot. And it's exactly that noise that in that video I was explaining that I was recording with this Olympus, Philips, Olympus, not Philips, audio recorder that I'm even showing. So if you're looking up this video on YouTube, you will hear me explain all this. And it's exactly these audio recordings that I'm making that will go into my court case. And I can prove to you, because I actually have this audio recorder here on my desk. Why do I have it on my desk ready to show you? It's because when they're shooting my room, I'm recording the pulsed energy projectiles impacting on the walls and metal objects around me. Okay, that's why I have it ready here, because I still use it every fucking day to collect evidence of electromagnetic machine gunning every day. And by the way, so should you, okay, if you're a victim. Now, it's wonderful because he's like, oh, look at her because she's got a funny hat. Oh, isn't that stupid? And she's got all this metal at the back. Yeah, but he ignores all the actual brainy stuff that I'm telling people, which only somebody who's a victim would know, which is that pulsed energy projectiles, right, will go straight through all this, will still cause you pain, but you get an early warning system and you can collect evidence, right? He kind of brushes that under the carpet, doesn't he? And also I can tell that this guy is so fucking stupid, he doesn't even remember his school physics, okay? He doesn't have a PhD like me in physics, but he didn't even pay fucking attention at school when he learned that metal foil reflects electromagnetic waves, right? Especially microwaves, which is, by the way, why you should never put a metal dish into your microwave. Even a spoon left in a mug of tea is bad for the microwave because it fucking reflects the microwaves into the machine, okay? And it just might melt part of your microwave when it's focusing, the microwaves on a particular part of the shielding or the insulation material. So, this is basic physics that this guy is ignoring. And you can find YouTube videos online where teenagers have built their own microwave weapons and they know to wrap their head in alu, right? If you go back to my earlier videos, I even show one of those videos, right? Why does the 16-year-old kid do that? Because his physics teacher told him that you need to shield, and the way to shield is with metal foil. So I'm sorry, the guy who did this video is so fucking dumb. He knows less physics than a 16-year-old schoolboy, right? That's fucking dumb. And it just shows you how shit British schools are. But there we go. Anyway, now the other thing where this guy did me a favor is that he took a screenshot from another video, and it just so happens that this video is exactly the video where I've, for the first time, proven audible and visible shots. Okay, now let me look up the original, because this was actually one of my smoking gun pieces of evidence. If you go to, actually it's on my website, so I can share my screen. Look, I'll show you how you can find the original to that video. Okay, now this is important evidence. So you go to Stop007.org, you scroll down to evidence, which is these puzzle pieces. And then the very first video that meets you here, oh, sorry, it's not this one. It's the next one down, this one. The second video is exactly the video where he got the still from. And in the very first 10 seconds, you will see and hear a shot, a pulsed energy projectile shot. You will hear it because it makes an impulse, an impact sound, and you will see it because it then smashes foil. Okay?
Just listen.
There are several shots in the background.
I had to put this over my shoulder. Did you hear that? That was a shot off the shielding. I'm just sitting perfectly still.
Now what?
I'm not touching anything. My hand is here.
Watch that.
That was a shot off the shielding. That's what I mean. It sounds like rain.
Okay. See that again. You can see and you can hear it at the same time. And as far as I know, this was the very first time a victim proved, to my knowledge, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was the very first time a targeting victim produced evidence of a pulsed energy projectile that was both audio evidence and video evidence. Kadunk. And this is exactly what this guy chose as his video, right, for his still image. Why? Because he was probably told by MI5 and MI6 to scour my website and find some dirt on me. And then he found this video on the evidence and he was like, yeah, I can make fun of that. Yankety, 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 yank. Being a total fucking moron who probably doesn't even have GCH, what's it called? GCSEs in physics. Okay, school certificates, year 10 in physics, right? Fucking dipshit. So anyway, but it gets better. Okay, now the next bit is when he tries to take the piss out of me for rape. Okay, and that's where it gets really funny, for me at least.
Wearing a tinfoil hat going to help our cause. Katherine also used to make...
Oh, just a second. So he asks, how is wearing a tinfoil hat going to help the cause? And even that I explained on my shows, but because this guy was hired for job only and doesn't really listen to my videos regularly, he didn't get the fucking memo. I explained how, and that's how. Number one, you desensitize people to it, because somebody with my education and my qualifications, which is a triple qualification from freaking fucking Oxford. I was an undergrad in physics. I was a doctor, PhD student in physics, and I got both degrees successfully. And I was even a fucking fellow in physics, teaching particle physics and nuclear physics at Oxford. It's as fucking high as you can get, short of being a professor. Okay. And if I wear a metal helmet, the point is it helps the cause because it shows the world that that's what you're meant to be doing if you're being microwaved. Now, the pulsed energy projectiles will still go through, but you can collect evidence. But when they try to burn off your hair with microwaves, which they also do, actually a hat like that will help, right? It will protect your head, your hair from being burnt off, right? And also if you've got chips on your head, the chip communication will be dampened, okay? It's not as effective. So if you've got massive headaches, try to wrap your entire head down to your forehead and all the neck area in alufoil, because then these chips can't really communicate as well with the rest of your body implant chips, okay? And if you've got any luck, they can't be charged and communicate with the Wi-Fi and the base stations, and you can't be tortured as hard after, these guys, the little chips have run their program to the end, so it really helps. Now, the way it helps the cause of me showing myself in this outfit is desensitization and getting the message across that, yes, this is what you have to do. These are the sort of lengths you would have to go to try to protect yourself. Okay. And because only I have these sort of qualifications in this field at this moment in time, I decided to put myself forward, bite the bullet, and just do it. Okay. Because it needs to be done. So fuck you, MI6, but let's get on to the rape bit.
Mentioned that she'd been implanted with chips all over her body, including a number in her vagina.
Now, when he says that, the way he says that, I can already hear the kind of like pub, blokes in a pub sort of approach, like, oh, yeah, she said she's implanted. Oh, yeah, she even said she's got a couple of them in her vagina. Oh, just for the pure pleasure of being able to say the word vagina on YouTube. I think that already gives these dickheads a hard on. Okay. Now, the fact of the matter is, and I'm so sorry to disappoint MI6, but it's now an established fact that the vast majority of women and men are implanted in their genitals. Okay, so with hundreds and hundreds of victims, including VIP victims, so VIP you wouldn't even believe it, including judges and Hollywood actors and IT professionals and politicians and people of public life, right, being implanted and being raped by remote control. I am sorry, we're so past, me being able to be intimidated or embarrassed about it, right? It's just laughable. And you can also see another method that MI6 is trying to use, and the CIA, because they're the same organization, they're trying to embarrass people. Like, they want the right to rape every woman and man and child, especially every child, by remote control, after they put little, microchip pulses and little pulsers and vibrators next to their clitoris or next to their prostate or wherever. Okay. So they want to be able to implant you with microsurgery. Then you will be implanted for life, because these chips are pretty much impossible to get back out. Right. And then they want the right to rape you forever after. And they want to be able to force you into silence by embarrassing you. And they will be like, yeah, if you ever speak up, we will publicly humiliate you. I am sorry, MI6, this is totally misfired, because I'm not British, and being Eastern European, it's, I think, physically impossible to embarrass me. Eastern Europeans were not born with the British embarrassment gene. So that plan crashed and burned as well, right? I don't have a problem saying that I'm being raped. I'm being raped on all the time. I'm also being raped on the show. But better than that, I even published a video where I recorded the fucking rape signal. And that was a breakthrough. And I just have to check if I put that up on my website. I hope I did. I think it's under the same evidence section. Hang on a second. Did I put it up? No, but it's on YouTube. It's one of those many things that hasn't made it up on my website yet, but it really should. But I can find it on YouTube within a moment. So the important thing is that I used another measuring device, and I uncovered what I believe is the rape signal, okay, that they send to the genital chips. Okay, I think I called it electronic rape. Yes, that's exactly what I called, and it already has 12,000 views. Okay, fuck you, MI6. Now, let me show you. Okay, so if you go to YouTube and you type in Stop007 electronic rape, you will get this video of mine, what the chip signals sound like.
What does the
Sorry, this is an advert. Let me just play past the advert. Okay, so now you can see me completely machine gunned in my old office, right? But the important thing is that as I sit at my desk, I show that there's a very faint signal, but it's like an ongoing signal that you can measure with this device that is nothing like anything I've heard in that room or measured in that room before. And the only thing that was novel at that time was that I was just being raped, okay, while measuring. So listen. And this signal, that's, you probably would have to watch the video and listen to it. That is the signal that was brand new, okay, that I hadn't heard before during a measurement. Okay, and it was for the first time that during a measurement I was actually being raped. So I just thought, okay, the rape has been going on for quite some time, and I thought, I want to know how they do this. So I put this electromagnetic meter in my lap, and I thought, whatever is reaching the chips in my genitals must be somehow measurable in this area. Okay, so I just sat there and I was working, and suddenly I picked out this signal, and I thought, hang on, I've never heard this. And that was the only signal that was going through this 20-minute rape session, and it was constant. So what I figured out is that whatever drives the genital implants is not a high intensity beam, because the meter was just reading 3 microwatts per square meter, which is actually very low, right? But the important thing was that it was a targeted signal, and encoded in the signal was the message to drive, or maybe load and drive, I think it's just drive, the chips to keep vibrating in my genitals, okay, and keep pulsing. It's like a current sensation. Basically, they're trying to put my clitoris under current and keep pulsing it, right? That's what they're doing, no big deal, right? If you've got any sort of chips in any sort of, any location of the body, they can only do a certain number of things, right? They can pass current into your nervous system in that area, into the tissue, causing maybe tingling sensation or current sensations or heightened like arousal of that area. Or they can pulse it, give like little mini electroshocks or fast electroshocks, kind of keep pulsing it. Or they can make a chip vibrate, right? Or give this vibrating sensation, or they can heat it, and that's it. Unless they have really wired up this chip with the nervous system, and they're sending sophisticated signals along the nerves, that would be maybe a very sophisticated pain signal mimicking the body's pain signal and stuff like that. So anyway, there's only so many things, and you have to use the frickin' chips to pull it off, okay? So it has to be some electromagnetic signal. And in that measurement, I kind of proved to myself that that is the signal that these guys were using with my implants. And I measured it, and I recorded it, and I published it a year before this defamation campaign. Actually, more than a year, right? So there we are. Okay. So again, MI6 picked the wrong target, right? They were trying to humiliate me about the fact that I said I've got genital implants, and I now have the evidence also under oath from all these victims saying that, yes, they are being raped too. So fuck you, MI6. And then like, oh yeah, and she was even, you know, she claimed that she was being raped while being live on show. And there I am showing that I'm being raped during a measurement. And I've even measured the signal. So, you know, that was 2 strikes. And then, you know, the 3rd strike is that they were trying to embarrass me about having shielding around me, ignoring basics GCSE physics, so school year 10 physics, right? And ignoring the fact that Karen Melto-Stewart, the NSA whistleblower, also has shielding around herself. So in that image of 4 people, I wasn't the odd one out. Both Karen and I were heavily shielding during every single recording of the Techno Forum. But this dipshit just didn't pay attention. You know, I really think your handlers should have briefed you better. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, if I were in charge of MI6, it wouldn't be such a pathetic shit show, right? I have applied to MI6, you know, as their new chief. I can tell you that on my watch, shit like this wouldn't happen. But anyway, there we are. So what is now really important, and remember that all this show, this episode is entire, oops, sorry, let me just switch off the video in the background. This entire episode is about what you can do. Now, based on everything that I've shown you, okay, about what's going on, what the sort of shit they are pulling, now you have to think, when stuff like this is going on and the people who are really trying to act, not just report about these crimes, but actually trying to fight against this with court cases, by collecting affidavit templates, by trying to prepare class actions and help them in the US with evidence, maybe like these affidavit templates, and, you know, collected affidavits under oath. When people are working so hard, what can you do to support us? And one of the things that you can do is actually something that many of you are already doing, okay? And what many of you are already doing is basically batting down these disinformation agents, okay? So one example that I can show you, I hope I can open it, just a second, is that there was another defamation incident with actually on a different platform. This was Facebook. And I was sent this this example by somebody. Okay, now I'm gonna share my screen. I just have to make sure that I don't show you anything that might be confidential. But I think I can show you this much. So what I was sent by somebody is a screenshot, I think, of these are Facebook messages. So this person posted my appeal for affidavits, victim affidavits, and then immediately on Facebook, there were people saying that I'm a perp. Now, I would like to show you the evidence. Hang on. And this is something, if you see shit like that, this is something that you can do. Okay, so here's the screenshot. Okay, this is in a PDF document. And the PDF document itself is me printing out the email that I received that contained this, okay? But because Facebook is public, I think these messages were public comments, and that's why I think it's okay that I share them. Now, what the person posted was this link, Appeal for Affidavits, on the Joint Investigation website. There were 6 comments and 2 shares. Now, here are the comments, and immediately from this person, Vio Serb, it said, Catherine is a perp. Your file will be used for something else. Now that's an allegation. That's not true. I'm just going to use the affidavits for exactly what it says on the first page of the template to upload them anonymously on my website and to file them with my court case. That's all. It's supporting evidence, right? But without any evidence of me being a perp, this person immediately said that, right? Catherine is a perp, your file will be used for something else. That is defamation. Now, immediately somebody replied, and this is very effective, okay? These sort of replies. And the reply was, one of many reasons why we targeted, do not win this battle despite our evidence is that there are so many TIs who are making bizarre and baseless comments about activists and TIs who otherwise could rescue them from this nightmarish crime. Please refrain from making such irresponsible comments. Dr. Horton is taking our cases to the highest court. What did you do to bring down this crime so far, huh? Well, thank you so much for this comment, because that's exactly what this is about, right? And then here, look at the reply of this, you know, I call him a perp, right? Of this guy who's defaming me. Good luck. You go your way, I go my way. I'm tired of explaining to every single person the same thing over and over again. I'm just tired. And can you see the subtle psychological warfare method used? It's implying that all these other people had already something explained to them, and you're the only person who doesn't know yet. But even though there's this amazing explanation that apparently everybody has, this person just can't be bothered to include it here. Okay, but trust him, there's something amazing that you already explained, but it's elsewhere. You don't know where, but it's not here. Okay, nice try. But then this person said, Vio, innocent people are dying by the minute. And we have to support every effort that can bring down this crime ring. Get it? And then this guy says, I'll say it again. Good luck. Right? So the emotional slant is, well, good luck to you. I have warned you. Well, no, he didn't, because he didn't really explain it. But now anything that happens to you is your fault and you've been warned. Right? What a subtle psychological warfare trick. Right? The truth is that I have put an entire explanatory notes with this affidavit template that contains my signature, and why I've explained that it's legally binding on me to use your affidavits only a certain way, in the way that it says on the front page of the affidavit template that you in the end sign. So I've got your signature, but you've got mine in the explanatory notes. And that's why I said download them and keep them, because it exactly outlines what this is about and how I'm going to use it. I don't see anybody else go through these sort of contortions and efforts and piling legal liability on themselves when they're calling me a perp. Most of the time, I don't even know who they are, right? So that is the huge asymmetry. And I'm so glad that people are finally waking up to this, okay? And now you know how to fight back. You just have to say, well, you either give me the evidence that Katherine is a perp, or fuck off. What you're doing is irresponsible. Yeah, it is irresponsible. And as a matter of fact, it's also unlawful. It's character defamation. But it's hugely damaging, because you have to be alert enough not to let your thought processes be poisoned by, somebody being tarnished and smeared wrongfully. Okay. So anyway, that was another example of this whole thing happening. But then it continues, and the precise pattern of how the intel agencies, and I say by now I allege it's the intel agencies, is very, very subtle. Okay. Now I would like to give you another example of defamation that is hot off the press. It has just come in half an hour before I launched this broadcast. Okay. And it was a comment. You can see here that when I brought up this page, this is the last week's broadcast, final boarding call, okay, streamed on the 10th of October. But this comment here was only posted 28 minutes ago. So 28 minutes before I opened this tab, which was in preparation for this broadcast. So just in the last, couple of hours. And this comment by Big Teddy Bear, good name, right? I use my real name, but this guy uses a pseudonym. This person says, I have to admit that I've been watching KT for a year. Now, also spot the spelling mistakes. My initials are KH, Katherine Horton, not KT. So I think these spelling mistakes are basically a get out clause should these people ever be accused of defamation, because they would say, oh, it's the wrong video. I didn't even mean KH, oh, I don't even mean her. I meant to post it as another video or some shit like that. But this message is full of spelling mistakes. So this person says, I have to admit that I've been watching KT for a year or so, and she's been saying she's going to take this all to court for months. Somehow it's always delayed. I know, look how the O is missing. I know that this can happen, but I'm more and more skeptical because of some of the allegations she's made and connections that she has with known nefarious entities. What known nefarious entities? Who do I have a connection to? Again, this is not stated. One of those being clear channel radio sources in the US, which are known to use NLP to guide people to whatever end. Which fucking radio source? I was just invited by Frank Allen on his show. That's the only US radio show I've been on the last 2 years, as far as I can remember. Right? So what? Right? I mean, again, it was Frank Allen who invited me. And then later he told me, oh, by the way, these days I'm on this radio show. Right? So it's Frank Allen's show, not mine. Interesting, isn't it? Now, you must be aware that she may very well be a fraud. Her name is also an old known name of intelligence communities. What? I'm carrying my husband's name, you moron, because I married a British person. Why is my name Horton, or Katherine for that matter, an old known name of intelligence communities? Fuck off. My husband's family had nothing to do with intel. Going back generations and generations, I'm pretty sure of that. So she has family literally everywhere. Yeah, duh, because I'm a refugee, okay, and Transylvania got destroyed by the Masons. So everybody in Transylvania who was educated fled. And they all fled to any country they could. So yeah, we're all scattered around the world. Yeah, I have family literally everywhere. That much is true, because we're all fucking refugees, you dickhead. Oh God, this really angers me. But anyway, somehow she seems to come up with all these email against her. However, not once has she responded to me, a supporter. I don't have any emails from Big Teddy Bear in my email inbox. Right? And given how much shit this guy's writing, I'm not sure I will respond to him. But again, an allegation, and he doesn't post this email or these emails he supposedly sent me, right? I don't even know his email address. So you be your own guide, but beware. Anything you send to her can and will be used against you in the courts. Also, you may be exposing yourself to Gestapo-like interrogations based on any information you provide. Move forward at your own risk. Now let's analyze this. He says, so you be your own guide, right? I mean, that means you're a grown-up person, you be your own mind and guide, and you decide, but beware. So hang on. If you say, but beware, you're my guide, and I'm not my own guide, right? Now, you as my guide, you're not providing me with any evidence. So what sort of guide are you? Pretty shit one, as far as I can make out, right? So again, you can see this intel agency's psychological warfare kicking in of giving you doubt, but nothing to actually found your doubt on any solid bits of evidence. It's just meant to be a niggling piece of doubt in your mind. There's no evidence because there can't be. And second of all, if they would present anything, I could debunk it. So they have to put something there that I can't debunk, but that will live on in your mind as this niggling piece of doubt. That's the trick. So the way to do that is with these psychological techniques. It's like, you be your own guide. I'm not going to influence you. You be your own guide, but beware. So I am going to influence you anyway, right? Trick. That was a trick that they used. So now, beware. Anything you send to her can and will be used against you. Do you see how it starts with can and turns into will be? Anything you send to her can be used against you. It's kind of like the neutral, guarding myself against the defamation lawsuit sort of formulation, but will be used against you is an allegation that is wrong. How can this be used against you if you're saying the truth and you're a witness, but you're not a litigant to the party? I mean, how is that going to be used against you? You're not a litigant, you're just a witness, right? At the end of the day, the court case is about me, not about you. You're just a witness. So, right? Again, it's not factoring in what sort of lawsuit I'm launching. I'm not launching a class action where you would be a litigant. I'm using your testimonies as witness testimonies to bring this crime to a stop. Do you see? It is maximum benefit for you with minimum risk. That's what I'm trying to set up here. And that's what really pisses these people off. So they are alleging that what you send can and will be used against you. in the courts. Well, this is nonsense, legally speaking. Also, you may be exposing yourself to Gestapo-like interrogation based on any information provided. Where does that come from? And if you're a victim, which you would have to be to testify, filling out the victim affidavit, you would already have been interrogated Gestapo style, because you would be chipped and going through remote neural monitoring, or they would have broken into your house, or they would have hacked your computers, all different forms of Gestapo style interrogation. So, right? Here he says you may be exposing yourself to Gestapo style interrogation. I'm telling you, if you're a victim, you already are exposed to this, right? So what Intel does is turn the actual facts around and say, oh, you're safe now, but if you're doing that, that's when you stop being safe. I'm like, hang on a second. If you're a victim, a genuine victim, you're not safe because you're being hammered by these people, right? So what difference does it make? So anyway, this is again another piece of defamation here, right? And it's just hot off the press. So one of the things that I wanted to show you is, again, remember, this is not about me. These are just examples. And your job now is to go back to your community, to your media diet of newspaper articles and other things, the stuff, the news that you're watching and the articles that you're reading. And with this training, you have to spot the defamation these criminals are running against others, against other victims, against politicians who might support us, against judges who might support us, but against anybody who might be working on the right thing. And you have to hone your mind to recognize when there's no evidence, right? When they are just unfounded personal opinions or unfounded allegations, right? And as soon as you hear these unfounded allegations, you have to drop down mental shutters and say, okay, I'm going to take your information on board, but I'll leave it out here until you provide me with evidence. And until you provide me with evidence, I will not let it enter. I will take it on board and I will note that you've said that. I will not censor you, but I will not let it get into my head as this niggling piece of doubt, because then you have control over me without having provided any evidence whatsoever. Okay? So remember, what the intelligence agencies want is control over you for free if they can have it. If they can just bamboozle you with words which are for free, they will opt for that. If they can't bamboozle you with words, they will try threats or intimidation. If that doesn't work, they will chip you and try to subjugate you electronically. And ultimately, they want to chip us all and go for the strongest method of mind control. But in the meantime, and also concurrently, they will have all these soft mind control techniques, which are defamation and propaganda and false flags and distorting reality. Okay? So in other words, what Ole Dammegard is warning about, a false flag, is like a bigger version, a more bombastic version of defamation, because again, you're smearing Muslims and you're smearing them as terrorists and you're saying they're involved, even though in every previous, occasion, we, or Ole Dammegard rather, and James Fetz and others, proved that at no point was it Muslim terrorists, it was the CIA and MI6 all along, right? So that is defamation against an entire nation or entire, part of the global population who just happened to have been born into a Muslim country, so their parents brought them up as Muslims, just as much as you might have been brought up a Catholic and you're not really Catholic anymore, or you don't really care, or you're something else now, And remember that we still have religious freedom, so people can be anything they want to be. That's not what Western society is curtailing, what you believe. What Western society is curtailing is what you do, right? So oppressing your women isn't okay, but being a Muslim is okay, right? So that's where the balance lies. Anyway, but just beware that these people will try to bamboozle you every which way, okay? Now, Yeah, I think I will stop here. So it's about defamation. It's about false flags warnings. It's about the power of working together, of providing testimony, the power of trusting each other, because these 30 people who provided testimony, they trusted me and they continue to trust me. And I want to honor that by going to court and filing their testimony as I said I would. And I want to bring this targeting crimes to a stop. And I also want to bring it to a stop for my own benefit, because I'm physically exhausted and I can't take the shit for much longer, you know? So anyway, all this was meant to be about what you can do. And in every single bit that I've presented to you, I mean, we can go through it in a fast gallop again, okay? So that as a summary, why did I call this episode today about what you can do? It's because there's a big fat false flag on the horizon, launching tomorrow or the day after at 39 places in Europe. It's meant to be the European version of 9/11, as Ole Dammegard explained with Professor Fetzer and with Alfred Lambremont Weber. It is your job to listen to this, to know about it, because the intelligence agencies, of course, they monitor the YouTube videos we watch. And as soon as the number of views goes too high, they think, shit, we can't pull this off because too many people know. So by you knowing, you already contribute your bit to this thing not happening. Okay, that's what you can do. Now, the other thing, if you're a victim, what you can do is provide your testimony. You know where to find this on my website, right? The other thing, if you're not a victim, that you can do, that I need you to do, is to download at least a summary and keep it for posterity. It's only 5 pages, okay? Download it as evidence that this this material, these testimonies have been collected and what it shows. Okay, I call this the heat map. So you know, what are the hottest types of attacks launched against victims? It's all outlined here, you know, in 2 visual representations. What are the countries that are involved? And you know, what's the number? You need to know about it, and it's your job to inform your family and friends and your communities. It is literally your job, and you don't have much time. You have to do it this week or next. You have to act on this, okay? Now, the other thing is that, yeah, we can laugh about it like the Dolphin, you know, because once we have these affidavits, we can just keep going. Now, talking about defamation, what you can do is post comments under these videos. You can inoculate your mind against this sort of defamation, right? And on Twitter and places like this, you can help me argue against it and show that an entire community doesn't agree with this sort of defamation, you know? And then when you see stuff like this under my YouTube video, it really makes a big difference when other people are commenting back, you know? Now, when you see bigger stuff like this happening, like one person going on a rampage and destroying project after project, it is literally your job to help me and either say to her or say to other people like Targeted Justice, like, hang on a second, I don't think that this is okay. I think we should work together internationally. So let's not break up international projects, because after all, this was my international work, me from Switzerland working with 3 people in the US. This was me in Switzerland working with somebody in Belgium, and this was me in Switzerland working with somebody in France. It's a pretty big deal. These were 3 international projects, right? And now she's going after the 4th international project of mine, which is, you know, supporting targeted justice, which is what I really want to do when their class action kicks off. So destroying international projects is massively damaging. Let's not do this, guys. Okay. And then finally, equally importantly, what you can do is just know the fact that so many people have been implanted for rape. You also can look up the so-called orgasmatron on the BBC website. That's an implant where, you know, somebody with a remote control can give a woman an orgasm. Okay, it's a commercially sold device. I think it's a big clunking 1970s version of the stuff that's implanted in me with microchips. Okay, but you can know that this stuff exists, And every single time somebody gets ridiculed for, you know, complaining about electronic rape, you can be the person who stands up and say, by the way, I heard about that too. I know it exists. You can measure the implant signal. You know, you can say to the victim, by the way, maybe buy yourself this measuring device that Dr. Horton has, this one here, the HF35C, and check if you are getting the same sort of signals. Now, to all the doubters, you can say, oh, by the way, don't you laugh about these rape victims, because I heard about this, and yes, it's going on. So as much as you wouldn't laugh about somebody who is the victim of classical rape, which is one traumatic incident, please also don't laugh about somebody who basically suffers the same traumatic experience of being violated several times per day for many, many years of their life. Like, since when did that become acceptable? Since when is it, since when does MI6 even dare to try to cow women into silence over rape? Like, how moronic do you have to think that that's going to fly in the 21st century? I'm sorry, Alex Young and Andrew Parker, you're out of luck. So, and remember that I know how to defend myself because I already took these motherfuckers to court, right? This guy on my YouTube channel who says, oh, when is she going to, sue British intelligence? She keeps talking about it. Well, I've got news for you, son. I already did 3 years ago. I'm about to do it fucking again. But I don't have to prove that I'll do it because I already did. I nearly died in the process, and so did my husband. But I did. It's a fact that's on my website. So, okay, so remember that in all this, rebuttal really leaves an impression. And it doesn't just leave an impression against the perps, where really we couldn't care less what they think about. Where it leaves an impression is with the bystanders. And the bystanders will be a combination of utterly clueless people who've never heard about this, where suddenly if somebody humiliates a person over a certain fact, and suddenly 2 or 3 people, chime in and say, oh, by the way, we all heard about it. It's true. It's really going on. A bystander will then look at the group and think, oh, shit, it is going on. I better inform myself, right? But also remember that some of the bystanders will be silent victims. And to them, it will really help when they see somebody try to humiliate another victim, and suddenly people who are not victims stand up and say, oh, shut the fuck up, because we all know what's going on. Well, that is exactly what's going to tip a victim into coming forward, right? So this sort of public outrage, public standing up for each other makes a huge difference. And it's not just about me, it's about the bystanders. It's about the silent bystanders, those who don't know and those who are victims. Okay? So keep that in mind. Your weight, your words, and not just your money, but every single decision that you make every day really matters. And you can change the course of history. So please do. And please do it this week. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with me for so long. And remember, whatever it is that you're suffering, there is a solution. And if I have learned anything in my life, it is that there's always help to be found somewhere. There's always somebody who's willing to help you. And sometimes it comes from the most unexpected corners, from people you have never met before and who have absolutely no interest in helping you, but they do it anyway just because they can and just because they want to. And I want all of you people who are out there suffering because you've been made homeless or you've been left jobless to know that there are armies of people who are willing to help you and who can help you, and they just need to be found. And we all just need to work together, and then we can solve all this. Okay? So whatever is being done to you,